job title?
I'm a police service representative.
And are you also a 911 operator and dispatcher?
Yes.
And were you a 911 operator and dispatcher on January 1, 1989?
Yes, I was.
And were you on duty between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning on that date?
Yes, I was.
And on that date and during that time period, did you receive a telephone call?
Yes, I did.
And where were you physically located at that time?
I believe I was sitting on console 41. It's indicated on my incident, the console that I was sitting on.
Okay, so you're sitting at console 41.
Yes, which is what we determine as a primary position, and primary is 911.
Okay. Now, is console 41 located in a private office?
No, it is not.
Is it located in a cubicle?
No, we don't sit in individual cubicles. There are approximately 5 consoles side by side, all connected together.
I take it that there's a telephone of some kind in front of you?
Each console has its own telephone, and it sits to the left of each operator.
And are you provided with earphones?
Yes, we have headsets, individual headsets.
And are you also provided with a keyboard?
Yes, we have 2 computer screens and a keyboard for each console.
Okay. If you will, take us through the process and procedure that occurs whenever you receive a 911 telephone call. Okay. The call comes in and you answer it, correct?
Yes, when you're plugged in, we have what you call an in button. It stays in all the time, ready for a call to what you say drop in. And we have an indicator on the panel to the left that shows the address and phone number where this call is originating from. And it also comes in on my computer screen, which is the left computer screen considered as our status screen.
Okay. So whenever you receive a 911 call, a display comes up on the console that indicates the origin of the telephone call?
Yes,
The address from which the telephone call originated?
yes,
And that same information comes up on another screen?
comes up on our status screen.
And I have here a single-page document. It appears to be some form of a 911 dispatcher's log. I provided Mr. Cochran with a copy, may it be marked People's 2.
All right, People's 2 for identification.
Mr. We're showing you what is marked as People's 2 for identification. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, I do.
May I have one moment? I also have a copy of the document on the Elmo machine. May we project it on the screen, please?
Yes. Certainly. All right, thank you, Counsel.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
Ms. Gilbert, what is the,
Hold on. Take it down.
what is the document marked People's Tooth Identification?
It's a incident form, what we determined to be an incident format.
Okay, and how was that form created?
On my working screen, which is the screen to my right that's directly in front of me, we have a format that allows us to create an incident by the computer by inserting certain commands. And I like to make a correction. It shows that I was on console 54. On the top line, it shows the time that I got the call, and the top example here is my update, so I need to drop down to the bottom. It shows the top line, shows the call came in at 3:58. It has my operator number. It shows the console that I was on and the incident number created.
Now, does the form also provide a space for you to add comments?
Yes, it does.
And did you add some comments to that form in this situation?
Yes, I did. That's where it shows
Overruled.
it shows the update of my incident in the top example, and that was after I entered the comments.
And you did add those comments to this
Yes.
form. And the comments that you added to this form, were these comments based on your perception, your hearing?
Yes, it was.
May I, Your Honor?
You may.
On the screen. Looking at the bottom one-third portion of the form, and I'm going to ask Mr. Fairlow, can you zoom in closer?
Yes. Overruled, same document.
What time did you say you received the telephone call?
3:58?
In 3:58 in the morning?
Yes.
And does the incident report indicate the origin of the telephone call?
No, it just shows, I have the ability to update it, and I have the ability to update the incident type. When I first got the call, I had it as an unknown trouble.
Okay. Okay, so the call came to you, right?
Right, it was the open line.
Okay, and could you hear anything over the open line?
No, at the beginning, no.
Okay. Did the line remain open?
Yes, it did.
And while the line was open, at any point in time, could you hear anything?
Yes, I did.
And what did you hear?
At first, I heard a female screaming, and that's when I went back and changed my incident type from unknown trouble to a screaming woman.
Okay. And did you hear anything else?
Yes, I did.
And what did you hear?
I heard someone being hit.
You heard a noise that you associated with someone being hit?
Yes.
And what did you do with that information?
That's when I went back and updated it to in the fact that I heard a female screaming, and then I heard what I thought was a slap. I went back and updated it as a female being beaten at the location to give the responding officer an indication of what was going on, that it was no longer unknown trouble.
In fact, you indicated that a female being beaten at location could be heard over the telephone.
Yes.
What was the next thing that you did after you updated the incident?
I brought up the necessary frequencies to broadcast it bureau-wide and for the air unit to assign a unit.
And did you assign a unit?
At the time I dispatched it, either there weren't any units available or I did an immediate dispatch, and I just broadcast it to West LA units.
And is there something called a call priority or priority code in terms of dispatching units to certain types of incidents?
Yes, it is. It's indicated to the right, far right, you see a C/P and a 2/H. That means code too high, And for the police department, that means a hot shot. That means immediate response.
You mentioned a moment ago that the telephone line was left open. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us how long that line was left open?
Well, only can go by my incident that I created, that the call came in at 3:58, and I updated it at 4:01. So I stayed on the line at least 3 to 4 minutes.
So the line was open then, 3 to 4 minutes.
Yes.
And the screams that you heard, you say that those screams were the screams of a woman?
It sounded like a female to me.
It didn't sound like a man.
No.
Could you tell who was being hit or struck or slapped?
No, I could not.
Overruled. She indicated no, she couldn't tell. Interesting.
Are 911 calls recorded by the other?
Yes, they are.
And have you listened to the 911 call you received at 3:58 in the morning on January 1, 1989?
Yes, I have.
And when was the last time you listened to that tape?
Approximately a week and a half ago.
And when you listened to the tape a week and a half ago, could you hear slaps or strikes?
Overruled. You can answer the question.
I could, in remembering the call, I could determine after the first scream, then I heard someone being hit.
Thank you. With the court's permission, Your Honor, I'd like to play the 1989 911 tape.
All right, you have that identified
Ms.
as an
Peoples-
exhibit.
Yes, it's been marked Peoples 1.
All right.
Emergency operator 461. Hello? You calling from 360 North Rockingham, apartment number B? Emergency operator. Okay, please hold on.
So from Wilshire, Normandy at the highest suspect, one of the male blacks, 5'10", 150 to 1.
Ms. Gilbert, is that a tape recording of the telephone call you received at 3:58 a.m. on January 1, 1989?
Yes, it is.
And there's more to the tape, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when you listened to the tape last week, did you hear your voice on the tape?
Yes, I did.
You testified a moment ago that you dispatched your units to 360 North Rockingham?
Yes.
Okay. Is that on the tape?
Yes, it is.
Did you indicate that you dispatched units to 360 North Rockingham, apartment B?
Yes, it is indicated on there.
Could you explain to us why you included the apartment B directly?
When I first created the incident, I had not erased my screen prior from a prior call that I determined not to dispatch on, and had not erased the apartment number out of the field When I went back and hit enter on a computer, it erased everything but the correct location that came up on the ANI,
Okay.
on the telephone console.
Now, we hear other voices, male voices, and apparently other dispatchers in this tape. Is that correct?
Right.
Those other voices, those male voices, those dispatchers, where is that noise originating from?
From people sitting beside me. There's people that sit behind me. Also, I had brought up the frequency to broadcast the call, and you were hearing the other divisions that were on the air because it was an open line. As long as I had not hit my transmit button, then you will hear all that.
And the comments you typed onto the incident report mark people's tooth identification, where you indicate that you can hear a female being beaten. At what point in this process did you type that information onto the report?
After I had made my incident and made it a screaming woman, and hearing is just, you get excited, you hear all of it at one time, and I went back and typed it in after that, after I had created the incident.
Okay. And is this while the telephone line is open?
Yes, I left it open.
So it's during the telephone call then that you typed in the comment about you're hearing a woman being beaten?
Yes.
Okay. Did the caller ever speak to you directly?
No.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Carpenter?
You can leave that up for good. Good morning, Ms. Gilbert.
Good morning.
I'd like to ask you a few questions if I might. The date of this incident was back in 1989, is that correct?
Yes.
That was January 1st?
Yes.
Was that January 1st, 1989 at about 3:58 in the morning, so that would be New Year's Day morning, is that correct?
New Year's Day morning,
All
yes.
right. As I understand what you've indicated to us, you received this call through the open line, is that correct?
Yes.
And you were sitting at your console, and being 911, you started to pay attention to that call, to listen to it, then you made some reaction, is that correct?
Right.
Now, from what you told Mr. Darden, you never had one of your colleagues?
That's one of my colleagues.
All right. Now, at some point, you type into, and you describe for us that you type into your computer, female being beaten at location could be heard over the phone. And that was what you concluded after you heard this woman screaming, is that right?
Yes.
And you don't know whether there was a mutual fight or what was going on, do you, at that point?
No, I do not.
All right. So you just wrote, what you wrote down was what you concluded at that particular time, is that correct?
What I concluded that I heard.
All right, and that was back in January of 1989, right?
Yes.
You never at any time talked to any of the parties who were actually at that house?
No.
Mr. Mulder, you're on. Yeah, just a moment more. Nothing further, Ms. Gilbert, at this point. Thank you.
A few questions, Your Honor.
Go away.
Gilbert, you concluded back on January 1, 1989, that a woman was being beaten as you listened in on the telephone?
Yes,
And you've since, you've heard that tape again, that is since 1989, is that correct?
yes.
And have your conclusions changed?
No, they have not.
Mr. Cochran just asked you a moment ago if there was information or other information on the tape that did not relate to this incident, and you said yes, correct?
Yes,
Okay. But you can hear on the tape your dispatch to any West LA unit, is that right?
right,
That's a little further along on the tape?
right.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Any recross as to that?
And so that it's abundantly clear, Ms. Gilbert, your conclusion about a person being beaten was based upon what you heard, and you couldn't tell who was striking whom. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Thank you very kindly.
You're welcome.
All right, Ms. Gilbert, you may step down. Thank you very much.
May you be excused, Your Honor?
Yes.
May I have 1 moment, sir?
You may.
For your first and last name for the record.
John Edwards, EDWARDS.
Mr. Dart.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, on January 1, 1989, were you employed by the LAPD?
Yes, I was.
Okay, and what is your present rank today?
A detective, Van Nuys Homicide,
Okay, and what was your rank and assignment on January 1, 1989?
a training officer for West LA Patrol.
So you were a patrol officer
Yes, I was.
at West LA Division?
Yes.
Does West LA Division cover Brentwood?
Yes, it does.
Now, did you have a particular unit designation on January 1?
Yes, I was 8 Adams 69. I was assigned to an area around Cadillac and La Cienega.
And you say that you were a training officer.
Yes.
And what is a training officer?
Training officer trains new recruits out of the academy who are assigned to the field in the various aspects of police work and standard operating procedures of the police department.
And were you accompanied by a rookie trainee?
Yes, I was.
And who was that?
Patricia Milowiski.
How do you spell that?
It's M-I-L W-I-S-K-I, I believe. I have the spelling if you need it.
Were you on duty between 3 and 4 a.m. on that date?
Yes, I was.
Were you in uniform?
Yes.
Was your partner in uniform?
Yes, she was.
Did you have a police vehicle?
Yes.
Was that a plainclothes vehicle?
It was a black and white patrol car.
Okay, so it had LAPD to protect and to serve and all of that on the doors?
Yes, it did.
On that date around 4 o'clock in the morning, did you receive a radio call?
I believe it's around 3:30 in the morning.
Do you know the exact time?
Not really, but I thought it was somewhere around 3:30, 3:40, somewhere in there.
Okay. But you did receive a radio call?
Yes.
And what was the nature of that call?
This is a 911 radio call at 360 North Rockingham. Woman being beaten. The operator could overhear it in the, according to the comments, the operator could overhear the woman being beaten on the phone.
And where were you, if you recall, when you received that radio call?
I was somewhere in the general area of La Cienega and Cadillac, Robertson, in there, near the freeway.
And did you proceed to 360 North Rockingham?
Yes, I did.
How long did it take you to get there, if you recall?
Less than 10 minutes.
A moment ago, you testified that you had a specific or particular unit designation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Were you also assigned a particular or specific patrol area?
Yes, I was.
What was your patrol area?
It was from basically Venice Boulevard to Olympic and basically Robertson to La Cienega.
So 360 North Rockingham then was out of your normal patrol area?
Yes, quite a ways.
Had you ever been to 360 North Rockingham, that is prior to January 1, 1989?
No, I had not.
Had you ever met the defendant here, seated at the end?
No, I had not.
And so you and your partner proceeded to that address?
Yes.
Tell the jury what happened next.
Well, when I arrived in the Sunset Rockingham area and went into the hills on Rockingham, it was dark, it was misty, it had been raining earlier in the evening, and as I went by the first part of the estate, I was not aware that there was a gate on Rockingham. I passed it, and I ended up on the next gate, which I believe is on Ashford, if I'm not mistaken, an electronic gate, and I stopped my black and white patrol car there and noted that it was a locked security gate with a little call box out front with a button.
Did you get out of the car at that time?
Yes, I got out of the car and pressed the button and waited for someone to speak to me, and a female came over the speaker, said she was the housekeeper, that her name was Michelle, and that she wanted to know what I wanted. And I said, well, I had just responded there on a 911 call. A woman had been beaten.
Sustained. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're to disregard the last statement regarding what the housekeeper said. All right, Mr. Darden.
What was your response to the housekeeper?
I told her that I was there on a 911 call, that a woman had placed a 911 call and said she was being beaten, and that the operator could hear her being beaten over the phone, and that I needed to see and talk to the person who made that call.
Did the person you spoke to, Michelle, did she allow you entry into the compound or estate at that point?
No, on the contrary, she said that there was no problem there.
What did you do?
I told her I was not leaving until I saw the person that made the 911 call.
What happened next?
Then a woman came running out of the bushes to my left, crossed the driveway. She was a female Caucasian, blonde hair. She was wearing a bra only as a upper garment, and she had on a dark, I believe it was a dark, lightweight sweatpants or night pajama bottoms. And she ran across and collapsed on the speaker, the identical kind of a speaker post on the inside of the gate. She collapsed on it and started yelling, "He's going to kill me, he's going to kill me." Then she pressed the button, which allowed the gate to open. And then she ran out again yelling, he's going to kill me.
Did you have a flashlight with you at that time?
Yes, I did.
What was your reaction? How did you react when you saw this woman run out of the darkness in her bra and night clothes?
Well, she seemed to be exhausted.
Sustained. Jury is ordered to disregard the last question and answer. Mr. Darden, answer the question again, please.
What was your response when you saw this woman running toward you, screaming, he's going to kill me, he's going to kill me?
I illuminated her briefly with my flashlight and then illuminated the bushes around her and near her and as much of the house as I could.
Did you see anyone else at that time?
No, I didn't.
What was her demeanor as she ran toward you, shouting, he's going to kill me, he's going to kill me?
She was hysterical.
And you say that she pushed the button to the gate?
Well, she had pushed it more than once. She pushed it 3 or 4 times like she was panicking. Several times she kept pushing it.
And did the gate open?
Yes, it opened and she ran out to me. I didn't enter.
Okay. What happened when she ran out to you?
She clung on to me and then made several statements to me at that time.
Now, you say that she ran to you and clung on to you?
Well, she collapsed on me.
She collapsed on you?
Yes.
And what was her physical demeanor and physical appearance at that time?
Well, she was wet. She was shivering. She was cold. I could feel her bones, and she was real cold. And she was beat up.
And at some point, did you identify this woman?
Yes.
Who was this woman that you...
Nicole Simpson.
What, if anything, did she say to you after she collapsed?
She said he's gonna kill me. I said, well, who is gonna kill you? She said, OJ.
What did you say?
I said, well, I was a little surprised.
Sustained. Officer, if you would, just answer the question.
Yeah.
Mr.
I
Darden.
said, OJ who? Do you mean the football player, OJ, the football player? She said, yes, OJ Simpson, the football player.
A moment ago, you said that as you saw this woman, Nicole Simpson, running towards you, that she seemed hysterical. Is that correct?
Yes.
Was she still hysterical as she clung on to you?
Oh, yes.
And was she hysterical when she told you that it was O.J. Simpson?
Yes.
How many times did you hear her shout, he's going to kill me, he's going to kill me?
4 or 5 times.
What, if anything, did you say to Ms. Simpson after she told you that the person who was going to kill her was O.J. Simpson?
Well, at that point, I was a little concerned about the possibility of...
Sustained. Officer, if you would, listen carefully to the question. Answer only the question that's being asked of you.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Darden. Thank you.
May I ask another question, Your Honor?
You may.
What were your concerns at that point, Detective?
that if someone was going to kill her, the person may have a weapon and may come out any second.
Did you ask Ms. Simpson anything at that point?
Yes, I asked him if I asked her if he had any weapons. And she said yes.
Overruled.
Did she say what kind of weapons he had?
She said he had lots of guns.
You testified a moment ago that you had in your hand a flashlight. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you illuminate Mrs. Simpson's face at all at that time?
Yes, I did.
Nicole Simpson?
Yes.
Did you notice any injuries at all on her face?
Yes, I did.
What were those injuries?
She had a cut approximately 1 inch, I believe, on her left upper lip. She had a swollen right forehead, and I believe her left eye or right eye was starting to blacken. It was swollen, and she had some sort of an imprint or some sort of a swollen mark that you could see on her cheek. I believe that was also on the right cheek, and she had a hand imprint on her throat, on the left side of her throat.
You saw a hand imprint on the left side of her neck?
Just the fingers.
Overruled. Answer will stand.
Did you ask or pose any question to Nicole Brown at that time?
Yes, I asked her what happened to her face.
And was she still hysterical at that point?
Yes.
What did she say?
Overruled.
She said that OJ had slapped her, hit her with his fist, and kicked her, and pulled her, I think pulled her by the hair.
What happened next, Detective?
I had my partner put her uniform jacket on her because she was shivering so bad, and had her placed in the right rear seat of our patrol vehicle. Repeating things rapidly.
Now, you indicated earlier that the gate opened after Nicole hit the button 4 or 5 times.
That's correct.
Did the gate close after she exited through the gate?
Yes, it did.
Did you enter the compound or the estate at that time?
No, I did not.
You remained on the outside?
Yes.
And as you placed Nicole Brown into the police vehicle, was she still hysterical?
Oh, yes.
Was she still shaking?
Yes.
And did she say anything at that time?
Overruled.
Did she say anything at that time, Detective?
Yes, she made a series of spontaneous statements prior to us attempting to ask her any questions.
What did she say?
She said, you guys never do anything, something to the effect, you never do anything about him. You come out, you've been out here 8 times, you never do anything about him. And she says, I want him arrested, I want my kids back, I want to go in the house.
Had you been out to 360 Rockingham, North Rockingham 8 times prior?
Overruled.
No, I had only been in the division for,
Overruled. Overruled. He can answer that way.
I'd only been in that division for a very short period of time, and I had never been on that street.
And did you respond to Nicole Brown when she said, you guys have been out here 8 times before and you never do anything?
Not much I could say about that, no.
What happened next, Detective?
I told my partner to hand her the preliminary investigation report, and I asked her if she would sign a crime report against O.J. Simpson. She said yes. She grabbed the notebook from my partner and the pen, and she signed her name on the document without even looking, and as fast as she could.
What happened next?
Then I turned my attention back to the gate as my partner was getting the rest of the details for the report. And I saw Mr. Simpson walking towards me from the house wearing a bathrobe.
When you say Mr. Simpson, you're referring to the defendant seated here in court today?
Yes, O.J. Simpson wearing the gray jacket, suit jacket.
Indicating the defendant. All right, Mr. Darden, do you have much more?
Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a 15-minute recess. Please remember my admonition to you, don't discuss the case amongst yourselves, form any opinions about the case, or allow anybody to talk to you. This will be a 15-minute recess, and I'm going to ask you to step back into the jury room, and we will resume at 11 o'clock. All right, counsel, let's have the jurors, please. All right, back on the record in the Simpson matter. Mr. Simpson is again present with counsel, Mr. Shapiro, Mr. Cochran, Mr. Douglas, Mr. Bailey, people represented by Ms. Clark, Mr. Darden. Detective John Edwards is on the witness stand. We've been rejoined by all members of our jury panel. Good morning, Detective Edwards. You're reminded you're still under oath. Mr. Darden.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Edwards, I believe when we left off, you had just told us that you turned your attention back toward the gate and that it was then that you saw the defendant. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what was the defendant wearing when you saw him?
He's wearing a open bathrobe with a pair of shorts, underwear, and no shoes.
And did you still have your flashlight in your hand?
Yes, I illuminated him with a flashlight as he approached me.
You shined it in his direction.
Yes,
Could you see his face at that time?
yes,
You could see the defendant's face.
yes, it was O.J. Simpson.
Were you still outside the gate?
Yes, I was outside the gate.
And the defendant, which side of the gate was he on?
He was on the inside of the gate on the driveway.
So the gate was between you and the defendant?
Yes,
Okay. Is there a wall or a fence at all around this compound or estate?
yes, there is.
And how high is the wall and the fence?
I think it's about 6 feet from my remembering it. It's about 6 feet high.
And when you saw the defendant, he was walking, is that right?
Yes.
In what direction?
He's walking directly towards me and the gate.
Now, where was Nicole Brown in proximity to you? at
As
that
I was
point?
facing the gate, she was to my right in the patrol car, which was behind the wall.
So you were between the defendant and Nicole Brown, is that right?
That's correct.
When you shined your flashlight in the direction of the defendant's face, did he seem angry at all?
It's a leading question. Why don't you rephrase the question?
When you shined your flashlight in the defendant's direction, what, if anything, did you notice about his face?
He seemed furious.
Even he has to laugh. I'm distracted. Counsel has to laugh. Witness to testify now, Mr. Darden.
Mr. Darden? All right,
You
answer.
saw the defendant's face.
Yes.
What was his demeanor at that time?
Better question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
He seemed very curious.
Did he say anything at that time?
No, he was still approaching the fence.
And how would you describe his pace or his gait or his walk at that time
It was rapid and deliberate
toward you?
towards me.
Were you concerned for your safety at that point?
Overruled.
I illuminated his hands in his waistline area
Overruled.
for any possible weapons because of statements made to me about him having lots of guns.
Okay. Did you notice the defendant carrying a gun at that time?
I could see no weapons in his hands, and his waistband was clearly visible, and I saw nothing in his waistband area.
What happened next, Detective?
The defendant approached directly to me at the gate where he was on one side and I was on the other. We were in close proximity. Then he appeared towards the black and white police vehicle and he started making some statements.
And when you say the defendant peered toward the black and white police vehicle, you're saying he looked toward your police car?
Yes.
And where was Nicole Brown at that time?
She was seated in the right rear seat of the patrol vehicle with the door closed.
And would that be the side of the vehicle closest to the gate?
Yes.
And you say the defendant started saying things?
Yes.
And what was his tone of voice as he said those things?
Extremely angry and loud and rapid.
What did the defendant say at that time?
Overruled.
Said, I don't want that woman in my bed anymore. I got 2 other women. I don't want that woman in my bed anymore.
Now, did he say this? Or did he shout it? Or
He shouted it, I believe, twice, and he pointed at her. Well, he pointed at my patrol vehicle while he was making the statement.
did you realize at that time that the woman in the patrol car, Nicole Brown, was the defendant's wife?
Yes.
Her name is Nicole Brown Simpson.
At that time, yes, that's correct. Mr. Darden.
And so he shouted more than once at Nicole?
Yes.
Did she respond at all?
She was, I believe the dome light was on in the patrol vehicle, and she was talking to my partner.
Okay. Did she appear to react at all?
At that point, I didn't turn around and look back at her. I did a sidestep to get between the two of them.
Did you note any reaction at all or any response to the defendant's statement that I don't want that woman in my bed anymore, I have two women?
From the
Nicole.
victim?
Yes, from Nicole.
No, I don't believe I did.
And when you say victim, are you referring to Nicole?
Yes.
Did you respond to the defendant after he made these statements repeatedly?
Yes, I did.
What did you say to him?
I tried to make eye-to-eye contact with him to focus him to me, because I was talking to him. And after a short period of time, I was able to get him to focus on me. And
Let me interrupt you there. Where was the defendant focused during the meantime?
on the rear of my patrol car.
And once you were able to get the defendant to focus on you, did his demeanor change at all?
He did. He slowed down, and his temperament dropped down enough to where I could talk to him.
And did you and he have a conversation at that point?
Yes.
What was that conversation?
I told him that Nicole had obvious physical injuries to her face, and that she said that he had hit her, and I could see trauma and open wounds to her, and that she wanted him arrested, and I was going to have to place him under arrest for spousal battery.
Now, you testified a moment ago that his temperament had changed.
It had dropped enough to where he was now looking at me, and it appeared we could communicate.
Okay. And did his temperament and demeanor remain the same as you told him that Nicole wanted him arrested for beating her?
No, it flared up back to a very loud, furious, angry mode again.
And did he say anything at that time?
He said, if I remember, he said, I didn't hit her. I just pushed her out of the bed, I believe.
You did write a report regarding this incident at some point, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And are you certain as to what the defendant said at that point in time?
No.
Did you describe the defendant's comments in your report?
Yes, I did.
And would it refresh your recollection if you were to read your report, that is, as to what the defendant said specifically at that time?
Yes.
May I, Your Honor? I'll show the page to counsel.
You may.
Showing you page 3 of a supplemental police report. Do you recognize that page?
Yes, this is my handwriting, the report I filled out in 1989.
And directing your attention to paragraph 4, would you read that to yourself, please?
Yes.
Read that. Is your recollection refreshed, officer?
Yes.
What did the defendant say at that point in time? That is, after you told him that Nicole wanted him arrested.
He said, I didn't beat her, just pushed her out of the bed, nothing more.
What happened next?
Then I tried to explain to him again that I was going to have to place him under arrest for beating his wife. And then he made another statement to me.
Was he still angry?
Oh, yes.
And this next statement, the one you're about to describe, did he speak in a normal tone of voice?
No, he was extremely agitated, angry, and he was yelling.
And when he spoke to you the next time, was he yelling then?
Yes.
What did he shout or yell at that point?
He made, I believe it was basically two statements. One was, I believe this is a family matter. You've been up here 8 times before and never did uh, anything before, and there was another statement, I can't remember exactly the phrase, but he emphasized that one.
Well, did you include that phrase in your supplemental report?
Yes, I did.
Would it refresh your recollection to see the report
Yes,
again?
it's been 6 years, I'm afraid it would.
Detective, let me hand you page 3 of your supplemental report. I'm going to ask you to read paragraph 6 to yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Is your recollection now refreshed?
Yes, it is.
By the way, in your supplemental report, did you include this particular comment in quotation marks?
I believe I did.
What did the defendant say at that time?
He said, you've been out here 8 times before, and now you're going to arrest me for this? And I remember he emphasized this. Then he said, this is a family matter. I believe I said this. He said, this is a family matter and nothing more.
And did you respond at that time?
Yes, I believe I told him at that point that he was going to have to get dressed, and I would place him under arrest, and he was going to have to get dressed and come to the station with me when my supervisor arrived.
When you told the defendant that he was going to be arrested, were you still on the outside of the gate?
Oh, yes.
And was he still on the inside of the gate?
Yes.
And had he opened the gate or allowed you onto the property at that point?
No.
Had you asked permission to go onto the property at that point?
No.
You told him to go get dressed.
Yes.
Did you ask to accompany him back into the house as he got dressed?
No.
Did the defendant return to the house?
Yes, he did.
And what was the next thing to occur? What happened next?
Then I turned around to see how the report was going with my partner in Nicole Simpson, and I requested my supervisor to respond to the scene. And then suddenly I heard the gate open, and I saw somebody come through the gate. It was a female.
Could you describe this woman, please?
It was either a Hispanic or a Filipino lady. I can't remember, but she went directly to the right rear door of the police car.
And what did she do when she arrived at the right rear door of the police car?
She opened the right rear door and reached in and grabbed Nicole Simpson by the right arm and started pulling on her and saying something.
What did she say?
I believe it was Nick.
Sustain.
Your Honor, can we approach?
All right, thank you, counsel.
Thank you. Can I have the last question read back, Your Honor?
Certainly. Madam Reporter.
Question, what did she say? Answer, I believe it was.
Thank you, Your Honor. The woman came out of the gate and went to the patrol car, is that right?
That's correct.
And you heard her say something?
Yes, I did.
And did you recognize that voice, that woman's voice at that time?
Yes.
You'd heard the voice before?
Yes, it was the woman on the speaker box that told me nothing was occurring in the house.
And this woman was pulling on Nicole?
Yes.
Did she speak with you prior to going over to the patrol car and grabbing Nicole and pulling on her?
No, she did not.
What did you do at that point?
I went over and grabbed her, pulled her away from the car, and closed the door after I saw and heard what she was doing.
Did you give her any commands at that time?
Yes, I advised her of 148 of the Penal Code, interfering with a police officer's investigation, and I told her to leave.
And did she leave?
Yes, she did.
Now, during the time that this woman was pulling on Nicole, trying to pull her out of the police vehicle,
That was the last statement, Your Honor. Please, counsel.
Pulling on her. Rephrase it.
Yeah, sure, thank you.
Rephrase it, please.
where was the defendant during the time that this woman was pulling on Nicole?
He was inside the house.
What happened next, Detective?
After she went back inside the house, approximately 2 minutes passed, and O.J. Simpson came back out, now dressed.
The defendant came back outside the house dressed?
Yes.
And were you still on the outside of the gate in the wall?
Yes,
And was he still on the inside?
that's correct.
Did the defendant say anything at that time?
Yes, he reapproached the wall. This time he was on the other side of the brick wall itself, the block wall. It wasn't near the gate. He peered over the wall, and we had a conversation again.
What, if anything, did the defendant say at that time?
He said, "What makes you so special? Why are you doing this? You guys have been out here 8 times before, and no one has ever done anything like this before." Something along those lines.
What was your response?
I said I was going to have to place him under arrest, and that the law required me to place him under arrest, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Now, what was the defendant's tone of voice, that is, during this particular conversation?
Well, at this point, he wasn't quite yelling as much, but he was still very angry and hostile.
Overruled. Overruled.
Now, did you testify earlier that you'd already contacted the supervisor?
Yes,
Had you asked that supervisor to proceed to 360 North Rockingham?
yes, I did.
And why did you ask that a supervisor be sent to the location?
Because I was going to have to somehow either get inside that house or the gated area, or I was going to have to convince the defendant to come outside to make the arrest. And I was by myself and my partner. We had a injured victim with us, and I just needed another person to help us.
And at some point, did you see a second police car?
Yes, Sergeant Vinger pulled up in a second patrol car.
And where was the defendant at that time?
He had been engaged in a conversation with me, peering over the wall next to the patrol car.
Okay, so you saw the patrol car arrive?
Yes.
Okay. And did you turn your attention away from the defendant at all at that
Yes,
time?
yes, I did.
Where did you turn your attention?
I walked over to explain to the supervisor what we needed to do.
And when you did that, when you walked over to the supervisor, was the defendant still on the other side of the wall?
No, he had walked away from the wall.
What happened next?
As I was explaining to the supervisor what had transpired and what we needed to do, I saw a blue Bentley start up, the light start up, turned on, and it went out a driveway that I was not aware was there. It went out a driveway onto Rockingham, out another gate similar to the one I had been standing in front of, and the vehicle went southbound on Rockingham.
And how fast was that vehicle going as it left 360 North Rockingham?
I believe it was around 45 miles an hour, somewhere in there.
Were you aware that the defendant was leaving?
I had no idea that there was even a gate over there.
So you were surprised to see the Bentley leave the property?
Yes, I was.
Answer will stand.
How much time elapsed between your telling the defendant the last time that he was going to be placed under arrest and your viewing of the Bentley as it left the Rockingham address?
About a minute and a half.
Were you in your car or outside your car when the Bentley left the property?
Both the supervisor and myself were outside of both vehicles when this happened.
So what did you do at that point?
We both re-entered our vehicles and pursued the defendant's Bentley.
Did you catch him?
No.
He got away?
Yes, he did.
During that pursuit, did you ever activate the red lights on your patrol car?
No, I didn't.
Did you activate the siren at all?
No.
By the time you got into your police vehicle and started your engine, could you still see the defendant?
No.
Could you still see his vehicle?
No.
Did you arrest the defendant that day or that night or that morning?
No, I did not.
Did you ever arrest the defendant?
Physically, no.
Where was Nicole? That is, where was she during the pursuit?
She was in the right rear of the patrol car wearing my partner's jacket.
I believe you testified earlier that Nicole signed the crime report.
Yes, she did.
And what does that mean? What is the significance of a victim signing a crime report?
Sustained.
What is the significance of Nicole having signed the crime report? What's the objection?
Sustained. Foundational.
Did you have a crime report at the location?
Yes.
Was that crime report handed to Nicole?
Yes.
Did she sign it?
Yes, she did.
Did you see her sign it?
Yes.
Did you see her signature on the document?
Yes.
Did you retain that document?
Yes, I did.
Strike that. Why did you have her sign the crime report?
Well, in our 273.5, you don't really have to have the signature, but this was her, whatever her statement was to us, when she signed the report, this is by law what she is representing as the truth.
You mentioned 273.5.
Yes.
What were you referring to?
Domestic violence, spousal battery.
Penal Code Section 273.5?
Yes.
You earlier testified to the injuries that you saw on Nicole's face and neck, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you offer her any medical treatment?
Yes, I did.
What did you offer to do?
I offered to drive her to a emergency room and get her treated right then and there.
And what was her response?
She said she wanted to go back to the house to her children. She wanted to be with her children.
Bless you. Did you ask her to go to the station?
I asked her if she would go, if I could drive her to our photo lab downtown and take pictures of her injuries.
And by downtown, did you mean downtown Los Angeles, Parker Center?
Yes.
And what did she say?
She said no, she wanted to go home to her children.
Did you offer her an alternative, that is to having her go downtown to take photographs?
Yes, I asked her if she would go to West LA Station and have Polaroid photographs taken of her real quickly.
And what did she say?
She agreed to that.
Now, had you taken her to Parker Center, would you have taken Polaroid photographs of her?
No, I would have had a photographer take professional photographs of her injuries.
And why did you want to take her initially to Parker Center as opposed to taking her to West LA? Why did you want to take her to Parker Center as opposed to taking her to West LA?
Because I felt that her injuries needed to be documented properly on film.
You didn't think a Polaroid photo would be sufficient?
No.
Sustained. Answer stricken as being leading and suggestive. Although perhaps self-evident. I think the jury knows the difference between a Polaroid photo and
I'm sure they
a hard film photo.
Did you take her to West LA Station?
Yes, I did.
Did you attempt to photograph her injuries?
I photographed her injuries myself.
And what kind of camera did you use?
Used a Polaroid 600, I believe.
Let me have counsel approach without the reporter, please. All right, ladies and gentlemen, during the course of the trial, I need to talk to the attorneys about whether or not you'll be able to view certain evidence. Primarily, sometime it has to do with scheduling, and it's easier for the 6 or 8 of us to walk over there and talk rather than have all 22 of you constantly going back and forth. So please be patient while we're doing that, and I appreciate your patience. All right, Mr. Darden, thank you.
If I can have one moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
Your Honor, I have in my hand what appears to be 3 Polaroid photographs. May they be marked Peoples 3, 4, and 5 for identification.
They may. Record shows that counsel have seen the pictures.
May the record reflect, Your Honor, that I've indicated the exhibit numbers in the bottom corners of the photograph on the rear. Showing you what has been marked as Peoples 3, 4, and 5 for identification. recognize these photographs?
Yes,
Are these the photographs you took in the morning of January 1, 1989?
yes, they are.
And do they fully and fairly and completely represent the injuries you saw that night?
Not even close.
I'm checking that, Your Honor. Okay, we approach on the record to you, Your Honor.
All right.
Can we have those photographs?
People's Five, Your Honor. What is depicted in People's Five, Detective?
This is the front of a West LA desk with a desk officer there. She's wearing, this is Nicole Simpson wearing my partner's field jacket. And these are the pants I was trying to describe. It's sort of a sweatpants or light pajama bottom. And this muddy leg is from when she hit the ground outside when she was thrown out.
Well, I'm going to strike that, Your Honor. Strike that.
All right, the last comment, the muddy leg is when she hit the ground outside when she was thrown out. That, ladies and gentlemen, you're to disregard that as there's no foundation for that answer at this point. Thank you, counsel.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Certainly.
Stand. You did prepare a follow-up or supplemental report in this matter, is that correct?
That's correct.
And did you prepare that report on the morning of January 1, 1989?
No, it was about 30 days later, I believe.
Okay. And why did you prepare a report 30 days after the incident?
The city attorney for the city of Los Angeles asked me to.
And do you know why he asked you to?
That's false suspect.
Sustained.
I'm asking if he knows. A prosecutor from the Los Angeles City Attorney's Office asked you to prepare a supplemental report?
Yes, I received a handwritten note from the prosecutor.
No, he can embellish slightly. Mr. Darden.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Certainly.
After you left 360 North Rockingham with Nicole, did you ever return to the house?
Yes, I did.
When?
I returned twice. I took Nicole home after the photographs, and then I had to return again.
Why did you return to the address that third time?
Nicole had called West LA Station, said that O.J. Simpson had returned, so I drove back to the location
And why did you drive back to the location?
to try to place him under arrest for 273.5 of the Penal Code.
spousal battery?
Yes.
And was he there when you returned?
No.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Cochran?
Thank you, Rick County, Your Honor. Good morning, Sergeant Edwards.
It's Detective Edwards. Good
Detective
morning.
Edwards. Would you put the that last photograph back up for just a second? The Elmo, Your Honor. Are these? Thank you, Rick County, Your Honor. That's Sergeant as Detective. Detective Edwards? All right, I want to call you by the wrong name. Detective, are these the black sweatpants that you told us about when you described them earlier?
Let's sustain the court's own objection. That's not what he testified to.
Did you indicate that she was wearing some dark sweatpants in your testimony earlier?
Yes, I believe I did.
Those sweatpants look dark to you or they look white?
The right leg looks pretty dark.
I'm talking about the color, sir, of the sweatpants. Look at the color of the left leg there. Is that white?
It's white pants,
All right, those are white pants, are they not?
except for the right leg.
All right. Well, anything on the right leg is not the original color, is it, sir?
No, but that's why I was having a hard time with the color. I remembered something dark about the pants.
I see. Well, with regard to your recollection of these events, Detective, this took place 6 years ago, is that correct?
That's correct.
And when, after that, you wrote these reports, you wrote the first report, reports contemporaneous with the event on or about January 1st, is that correct?
That's correct.
Then I understand you wrote another report about 30 days thereafter, is that right?
That's correct.
And have you had occasion to review those reports in the recent past?
Yes,
And how long ago did you review the reports?
I believe last week.
Before that, when was the last time you reviewed these reports?
It's been quite some time, maybe 4 years or more.
All right, are you aware that with regard to these proceedings that Mr. O.J. Simpson entered a no contest plea and resolved this incident in the criminal justice system? Are you aware of that?
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
I found out about last year.
Your answer is yes, you're aware of it?
Yes.
All right. And are you aware that he thereafter wrote letters of apology to his wife regarding this incident? Are you aware of that?
Same objection.
This witness's awareness is irrelevant.
All right, well, that's another way. Are you aware that in this connection, with regard to this case you've been talking about, that Ms. Nicole Brown Simpson wanted to drop the charges against her husband? You aware of that? Oh, no.
Sustained.
I'd like to be heard on that.
Please, with the court report.
Certainly.
Yes, I did.
And when you took these pictures, you did the best you could to try and accurately display her injuries, isn't that correct?
Yes.
This wasn't the first time you'd taken Polaroid pictures, was it?
No.
And were you experienced at doing that at that time?
Yes.
And you took these pictures at West Los Angeles Station, right?
That's correct.
And how many pictures did you take altogether?
3.
And the 3 that we see here, is that correct?
That's correct.
And I'm going to ask that the jury be allowed to see these pictures up close and personal after I ask a few more questions. The clerk, please. Now, with regard to these pictures, is your testimony these pictures don't accurately reflect how she looked?
That's true.
Let me see if I understand this. You took the camera, you focused on her, and you took 3 shots. Is that right?
That's correct.
And these are the 3 shots that you took. Is that correct?
That's correct.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Let's show you, first of all, the marks, Peoples 1 for identification. Peoples 1 is a photograph of Ms.
Five.
One of them. Peoples 3 purports to be a photograph of a female. Is that a photograph of Nicole Brown Simpson?
Yes.
Counsel Record 5, is that agree? Is that a photograph of Nicole Brown Simpson?
Yes, it is.
Did you take that photograph?
Yes, I did.
I'll show you Peoples 4 for identification. Is this a photograph of Nicole Brown Simpson?
Yes, it is.
You take that photograph?
Yes.
And Peoples 3 for identification. Is that a photograph of Nicole Brown Simpson?
Yes.
You take that photograph?
Yes, I did.
Now, did you ever go to court to testify in this matter, in any criminal proceeding that took place?
No.
Did you ever at any time have any further discussion with Nicole Brown Simpson as to whether or not she wanted to proceed with the charges against her husband?
No.
You didn't talk to her after this?
No, I didn't.
The last time you talked to Nicole Brown Simpson with reference to this incident was on what day?
January 1st, 1989.
At what time of the day was that?
When I took her home, it was around 6, I believe.
6 o'clock in the morning?
Yes.
And when you had occasion, did you not, to get very close to Nicole Brown Simpson on this night, is that correct?
Now, she grabbed me and hung on to me, yes.
Excuse me, Your Honor, not for the record examination.
I am going to get the photographs. All right. You got very close to her, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you have occasion to determine whether or not she'd been drinking that particular night?
I didn't smell any significant alcoholic beverage on her breath. I don't believe I did.
I'm not asking about significant alcoholic beverages. Did you smell any alcoholic beverages on her breath?
Not enough that I would be able to detect it. I don't remember it.
Well, I don't understand that answer. Not enough? What does that mean?
I can't remember smelling alcoholic beverage on her breath.
So your answer is you don't know one way or the other, right?
I just can't remember smelling alcoholic beverage on her breath.
The answer is you don't know at this point, right?
Okay, I don't know.
All right, that's all I'm asking. Your Honor, I'd like at this point, if this is the appropriate time, to show the photographs.
All right, Mr. Cochran, if you would then hand the, all 3 photographs to juror number 1. Actually, hand it to our bailiff. Ladies and gentlemen, as you look at the photographs, would you pass it to your right? Actually, to your left. Sorry about that. Juror number 1, would you pass the photographs to your, as you look at it, pass it to your left. That way everybody will see it quicker. But take your time. Please take as much time as you feel you need. As you look at the photograph, pass the individual photograph, please. We'll get used to the procedure. But please take as much time as you feel you need to look at the photographs. I'm sorry, let's just go down the front row, please. And then we'll come back around to the cheap seats. Reflect that all 22 of our trial jurors and alternates have had the opportunity to view Peoples 3, 4, and 5. Mr. Cochran?
Thank you very kindly. Just one or two more questions before we take a break.
All right.
Detective Edwards, after you took these photographs the jury has just now seen, you looked at them, did you not?
Yes, I did.
And you had the ability, if the pictures didn't show something you wanted to show, you could take another picture, could you not?
No,
You couldn't take any more pictures?
it was out of film.
Wait a minute, you mean to tell us that the Los Angeles Police Department only had 3 shots on a Polaroid roll on January 1st, 1989 at the West Los Angeles station?
It was out of film in that camera.
Did you get, with the Polaroid camera, as I recall it, you put another roll in after that finishes, is that correct?
Right, she wanted to go home.
But wait a minute, how long would it take you, sir, to put another roll, slide another container inside that camera?
She wanted to go home to her children, and it wasn't my option. I had to comply with her.
So you didn't have time to take any more pictures, is that what you're telling us?
That's correct.
You did have other film at that station.
I would imagine somewhere locked up in that station there was film.
Now, you drove her back home, did you not?
Yes.
What stopped you from taking some pictures at her home when she got back home with her children?
She wanted, I didn't have any other film with me. That particular camera was out of film.
Well, there was other film at West Los Angeles Station, isn't that correct, sir?
She wanted to leave. She wanted to go back to her children.
Can you answer my question? Was there other film at West Los Angeles Station?
Somewhere in that station, I'm sure there was other film.
And you could have gotten that film, isn't that correct?
I could have eventually gotten the film,
And you
yes.
could have put that film inside that Polaroid camera, isn't that correct?
Yes,
You could have taken that camera back to Rockingham, right?
I could have.
And you could have taken the pictures that you claim you now want, isn't that correct?
If I would have ignored her request, I could have done all those things. It's true.
You did not do that, did you?
No, I complied with her request to go to her children.
But you were a police officer out there, and the reason you take pictures is so you can preserve how the person looked for years later. Isn't that correct, sir?
Exactly.
And you didn't do that according to your testimony, although we have these photographs, right?
I did it to the best of my ability.
All right. Can we stop at this point? I'm not finished with him yet.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our recess for the noon hour. Please remember my admonition to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves, form any opinions about the case. Don't allow anybody to talk to you about the case. Don't perform any deliberations till the matter has been submitted to you. And we will resume back here at 1:30. All right, Detective Edwards, you're excused until 1:30. All right, thank you, sir. All right, Deputy McNair, let's have the jurors, please. Reminded you're still under oath.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Cochran, do you wish to continue your cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you very much, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Detective. When we broke at lunchtime, we were talking about this Polaroid camera. Now, I want you to think back for us. This camera that you had, did you have that camera at the scene at Rockingham before you went to West Los Angeles?
No, I got it at the desk.
At West Los Angeles Station?
Yes,
And that was your station? You were assigned to that station at that time, right?
that's correct.
And the time you got that camera, how many exposures, or what was the total number of film that you had in that camera at that time?
I don't know. I shot it until it was empty.
All right, now, and in shooting until it was empty, is it your testimony that you only took 3 shots?
I believe I only took 3.
Do you recall taking a photograph of Nicole Brown Simpson while she's still in the police car?
I don't believe I ever did that.
You don't recall any such photograph being in existence?
I'm pretty sure I didn't do that.
All right, do you have any records that would refresh your recollection on that at all?
I don't think I took a picture of her in the car.
All right. Now, at some point, you described for us that a young lady or a lady by the name of Michelle came out to the police car and started having a conversation with Miss Nicole Brown Simpson. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so that we're clear, as I understand it, at that time, Mr. Simpson was not outside. You could not see him at that point.
He was not outside in my view.
All right, and you were still outside the gate at this point, right?
That's correct.
All right, and this lady, Michelle, can you describe her for us, please?
I believe she had dark hair. She's about 5'4", and I think she was Filipino, but I'm not really sure.
You believe she was Filipino?
I'm not sure. I know she had a long last name that I can't remember what it was.
Was her last name Michelle Abdurrahman, Abdurahm? Does that refresh your recollection?
That might be it.
That sound about right to you?
It was a something.
And did she appear to speak to you with an accent?
She had an accent, yes, but she spoke English.
All right. And you believe that she was Filipino, did you?
Well, not really. I just can't. I didn't ask her what her nationality. It was at night, and I really don't know.
Well, now, you were out there, of course, in response to this phone call. Did you or your partner or Sergeant Vinger ever interview this Michelle Abdurrahman?
Just to admonish her of 148 of the Penal Code and tell her to leave.
No. Let's get back to my question now. When you admonished her, you told her to leave because she'd be interfering, right?
That's correct.
I'm asking you, did you interview her to find out what had happened, either inside or outside of 360 Rockingham before you arrived there?
No, I did not.
So you did not take a statement, and as far as you know, not only did you not do it, but neither did your backup sergeant or your trainee partner. Is that right?
No, because she was inside the gate after I told her to leave.
So your answer is no, you didn't do that?
Nobody interviewed her.
All right. Were you aware that there was a second woman, another woman inside the house, a so-called nanny? Did you ever see another woman?
I didn't see another woman, no.
You never saw her or talked with her, is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, by the way, with regard to you said you would spell for us the name of your partner. Spell it for us now, will you please?
You know, I didn't look it up to see what it is, but it's Milweskwi, I believe.
Milweskwi?
Yeah, something like that. First name Patricia.
That's close, all right. Now, did this officer, Milweskwi or whatever we have there, did she ever have occasion to, as a female officer, look at Miss Nicole Brown Simpson's body for any other bruises or injuries at some point?
Objection, Your Honor. Unless the witness is present.
I'm asking, he answer yes or no. He knows.
Hearsay.
It's not hearsay.
Overruled. If he was present, if he knows.
I was not present during that.
All right. But you instructed her, did you not, to look at her body? Did you not?
That's correct, I did.
Okay, tell us what you asked her to do.
I asked her to go take her into the women's bathroom that's located in the lobby of West LA Station and see if she had any bruises or marks on her back.
And did you then see your partner, female partner, then go along with Miss Nicole Brown Simpson into a bathroom area?
Yes.
All right. And you weren't in that room, obviously, were you?
No, I was not in that room.
And then they came back out at some point, isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And after this was all over, you had occasion to write out a report, did you not?
That's correct.
And in that report, you talked with your partner as to her observations, did you not?
Well, my partner wrote the report, and I assisted her with it, yes.
So you had occasion to see her report, and you had her response as to whether or not she saw any bruises on Nicole Brown Simpson's body, right?
That's correct.
And it's true, in fact, she did not see any bruises, right?
Sustained.
All right, there is a report, is that correct?
That's correct.
Is she here today in this building, your partner?
Not that I know of.
You haven't seen her?
No,
You still work West Los Angeles?
no. Van Nuys homicide.
All right, now, Detective, so that we're clear, I believe you indicated to Mr. Darden that you believe that you arrived at the scene sometime after 3:30 or thereabouts. And if I were to indicate to you that the call that came to downtown for the 911 was at 3:58, would that refresh your recollection that you were there a little after 4 o'clock or after
That's
4
correct.
o'clock? Would that be correct?
That's correct.
You also told us that you had heard in the transmission that the woman calling the 911 had said she was being beaten. You heard that, did you?
No, it appeared on the video screen in our car.
Well, isn't it true that what appeared on the video screen was that it was the comments of the transcriber, the person who was working down at Parker Center?
That's correct. That's what I testified to. That's what we were given as a radio call.
You didn't say earlier today that your understanding that the woman who made the call had said she's being beaten. Did you say that?
I can't remember if I said that or not.
Right. Okay, well, at any rate, you think about it now. At no time were you ever told by anyone that Nicole Brown Simpson or any lady inside that house ever told anyone they were being beaten through the transcriber. Is that correct?
At the time that I got the radio call, it was just that a woman was being beaten in the background.
All right, that's your understanding, right?
That's correct.
All right. So let's assume that you arrived there at some time after 3:58. Knowing that information, can you now tell the jury and the court and jury with better precision as to what time you actually arrived?
No, because I don't know exactly where I started from and how long it took me to get there unless I had the arrival time on that document that you're talking about. Just refreshing my mind, I think it was under 10 minutes, like I testified earlier.
So whatever time you got the call, you think you got there from the area you were in near La Cienega or whatever, in about 10 minutes?
I'd say it was under 10 minutes, but it was around that area.
All right. So let's assume that you were out there by 4:15 a.m. And this is New Year's Day, early morning hours, right?
That's correct.
And how long were you there until you left to take Miss Nicole Brown Simpson down to the West Los Angeles station to have these pictures taken we were talking about?
Probably somewhere around 8 or 10 minutes.
So if you arrived by 4:15, you say by 4:23, 4:25 you'd be out of there, is that right?
4:30, somewhere around there.
In that general range?
Right.
All right. Now, you described for us, was it raining that particular night?
It was a light, misty rain in the hills pretty much only.
And had it been, was it also kind of muddy outside?
Yes.
Did you ever at any time go inside the residence at Rockingham there and look at any of the rooms or at any time go inside the house?
I never got past the front gate.
Your testimony is that everything you testified about in this 8 to 10 minutes occurred with you outside the Rockingham residence, is that correct?
That's correct.
The photograph that showed Miss Nicole Brown Simpson with the apparent mud or whatever on the right side of the light colored or white colored pants she was wearing, did she have that mud on the pants when you first saw her?
Yes, yes, she did.
And that was on the right side of her body?
Yes.
And that was consistent with some of the marks or injuries you saw on the right side of her body also? That same size?
What's the objection?
Question is made, how can you testify that was an injury consistent with mud on the...
No, that's not what I asked, but so I want it to be clear for him, so may I state it again, please? Your Honor?
Please.
Okay, yeah. Your Honor, I'll proceed. You described for us that this mud was on the right side of the pant leg of Miss Nicole Brown Simpson, right?
From the waist down.
Right. It was on the right side.
Yes.
All right. And did she have injuries on the right side of her face or body?
Yes, she did.
The same side as where this mud was, right?
Except that there was no mud between her waist and her shoulders.
That's not what I asked you, officer. I asked you, is it the same side as where the mud was?
The right side of the face. Some of the injuries were on the right side, yes. Some of them were on the left.
I ask you, were there injuries on the right side?
Oh, the side of her torso? No, just on the side of her head.
Were there injuries on the right side of her face, officer?
Yes.
Now, by the way, when you took her back home, did you ever book these pants into evidence so we can have them look at them now?
No.
When you went back home with Miss Nicole Brown Simpson, did you go inside the house at that time?
No.
You just let her out of the gate?
At the front door.
The front door of what?
The house.
So you went inside the gate this time?
I think we drove to the front gate and let her out, yes.
Well, it's not clear. There are gates all around the premises. Did you drive inside the gates up to a front door
Yes.
premises? Did you go inside?
No.
So you let her out and she just went inside the house?
Her, that female came out, Michelle, came out and met her, and they went in together.
She and Michelle went inside and you didn't bother going in at that point?
No.
When you went in this second time, did you ever see the nanny at that time?
No.
Now, this was the morning after New Year's Eve, is that correct?
That's correct.
In talking to Miss Nicole Brown Simpson, did you discuss with her the fact that she'd been to a party that evening?
I asked her.
Yes, that yes or no? Overruled.
Yes,
She indicates she'd been to a party, isn't that correct?
that's correct.
If you think about it, if you have a lunchtime to think over it, you recall, don't you, that she had been drinking that night? You recall that now?
No, that's not it. No, I don't.
You don't recall that?
No, I don't recall her had been drinking.
Did you write that in any of your reports, sir?
That she'd been drinking?
Yes, whether or not she'd been drinking.
I don't think I did.
Did you ascertain that both she and Mr. Simpson had been to a New Year's Eve party?
Overruled.
Yes,
And did you find out what time they come up from that party?
Overruled.
no.
This part of the conversation that we're talking about now, at what point did you have this conversation about the party and what happened earlier?
At the station?
At West Los Angeles Station?
Yes.
Is that written down anywhere?
No.
So you just have an independent recollection of that 6 years later?
Yes.
And when you asked Miss Nicole Brown Simpson whether or not she wanted to be taken for medical treatment, is it my understanding she indicated to you that she would seek her own medical treatment, is that correct?
That's correct.
You described for us that you were just recently assigned to the West Los Angeles area prior to this incident, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you had never been to that residence before, right?
That's correct.
You never knew either of these parties before this time, right?
That's correct.
You've never had a conversation with Mr. O.J. Simpson before this, right?
That's correct.
You've never seen him when he was angry, he was ever angry, had you?
No, I'd never seen him angry at all.
You've never seen him happy before?
I had seen him on television in football games and things like that.
Well, I wasn't talking about on television, I'm talking about in person, officer. You'd never seen him at a time in person when he was either happy or sad.
I've never met him before.
All right. So with regard to all of your observations about him being angry or hostile or whatever, you had never talked to him before this particular night, right?
I never talked to him, but I'd seen him on television, things like that.
You've never talked to him in person, officer, before that night, right?
That's correct.
You indicated that at some point, Ms. Simpson said that the police had been out there 8 times before and hadn't done anything. Did you ever have occasion to check to see whether or not in the logs at West Los Angeles Police Department there were 8 previous contacts, written contacts from West Los Angeles to that particular residence on Rockingham?
No, I just took his word for it.
Could you just answer my question? Did you ever check that, sir?
No, I took his word for it. I never checked.
So the answer, you didn't check. And to this date, you still haven't checked, right?
To this date, I haven't checked.
If officers from the West Los Angeles station would come out on a social call to stop by and talk football or whatever, there wouldn't be a record of that, would there?
I don't know.
Well, if an officer from the Los Angeles Police Department assigned to West Los Angeles stopped by Rockingham, saw O.J. Simpson, and just stopped by and talked football when they saw him outside, let's say, you wouldn't write that down, would you normally?
I don't know. I've never done it. I wouldn't know.
Are you a detective now, LAPD?
Yes.
And how long have you been a police officer?
24 and a half years.
So you know something about the procedures, don't you?
Yes.
And someplace, at some time in 24 years, you've worked in an area where you've had some friendly encounter with somebody in your particular beat area. As a matter of procedure and your training, did you at that time have occasion and were required by your training to write that down?
I want to check this question. The compound is confused and Mr. Kaufman is becoming witness.
Overruled. Overruled. Do you understand the question?
I think so.
Try to answer, please, sir.
There would be a couple of ways to log something like that. You just drop by someone's house, either going to code 7, that means to eat. You would be taking your code 7 time or your eating time to visit that person, and you may log it at that address. Or as an officer call, you would log it whenever you went to a business or a person's house for any reason like that.
Any other ways that you might just stop by and not log it?
I would imagine.
All right. Now, when you talked to Mr. Simpson at some point, you described for us that he had on some shorts and a robe, and you at some point, after talking with his wife, made a judgment that you were going to place him under arrest. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, now at that time, had you spoken with this lady, Michelle Abduran?
No.
All right. At that time, did you talk to Mr. Simpson about what may or may not have happened?
No.
All right. You made the judgment he was going to be placed under arrest, and you then told him to go back in the house and get dressed, right?
That's correct.
And is that normal police procedures?
For 273.5?
Yes.
Penal code arrests? Exactly.
You just tell him to go in, put your clothes on, and come back out here, right?
No, that I was going to place him under arrest.
No, I mean the procedure. You missed the question. The question was, is that normal procedure for you to stand on one side of the fence and say, I want you to go in the house, put your clothes in, and come back out here so I can arrest you? Is that normal procedure?
It was a tactical decision I had to make with just my partner, myself, and an injured victim in the back seat.
So that was your tactical decision. Now, your tactical decision was you were going to do this even after you'd been told that Mr. Simpson had lots of guns. You could just go in the house, get dressed, and come back out, and you stand up there and wait. Is that right?
Exactly.
All right. And by this time, had you thought to call for backup for Sergeant Vinger?
Yes.
Had he come by this point?
He was on his way.
And he arrived there at some point shortly thereafter?
Yes.
And sergeants travel in vehicles by themselves. So he's a one-person car. Is that right?
That's correct.
So he then came back out, right?
Right.
Now, as I understand your testimony that Mr. Simpson left out of one of the gates of this place at 45 miles per hour?
Now, he went southbound on Rockingham at about 45 miles an hour as soon as he left the gate.
All right. What speed was he traveling when he got outside the gate?
I don't know, he went by pretty fast. I didn't get a real good look at the car. I'd say probably 15 to 25 miles an hour.
You ever driven a Bentley before?
No, I've chased him.
So now let's see. You chased one, but you haven't driven one, right?
That's right.
All right. And so your testimony that as he got outside the gate, the Bentley was traveling about, on the way outside the gate, was 15 miles per hour?
Right.
And then it soon got to 45?
Right.
And did you and Sergeant Vinger both go in pursuit?
Right.
Do you have any communication so there were other vehicles in this pursuit at all?
We switched to simplex, which is an internal car-to-car frequency, and we broadcast that on simplex.
All right. Were there any other vehicles involved in this so-called pursuit, sir?
I think a total of 5 searching the area ultimately, but I was the only one that was directly trying to catch up with him.
You were the only one supposed to be following the Bentley, is that right?
Right. Everybody else is fanning out through, there's multiple side streets, and we were checking the side streets.
Now, after this incident, you described for us that you may have stayed there 8 to 10 minutes. You went to West Los Angeles Station, right?
Well, we ended up down around Bundy and Wilshire in attempt, from there we went to West LA Station.
All right, and Miss Nicole Brown Simpson was in the vehicle with you?
That's correct.
All right. So ultimately, you got to West Los Angeles Station.
That's correct.
What time was that?
I don't know. I would guess somewhere around 5 o'clock or before 5.
5 o'clock a.m., thereabouts?
Right.
All right, and how long did you stay at the station?
Just long enough to get the camera, take the 3 photographs, have her go in the bathroom, come out.
Now, could you answer this question? How long did you stay at the station? Can you tell us that in minutes, officer?
I'd say about 8 to 10 minutes.
And then was your partner still with you at this point?
Yes.
The two of you then drove Ms. Simpson back to the residence of Rockingham?
That's correct.
That's when you dropped her off?
Yes.
And did you stay at any time there other than to drop her off and then you left again? Is that right?
We just left.
Did you ever see any children in or about that residence that night?
No.
Did you have occasion to have a further conversation with Mr. Simpson that you haven't told us about thus far, where he described to you?
Objection, call for hearsay.
May I finish the question, Your Honor?
The form of the question calls for
May I
hearsay.
finish the question, Your Honor?
Over here at the sidebar. With the reporter, please. Thank you, counsel.
Now, that be read, or should I just restate it, Your Honor?
State again.
Certainly. I will read it. Detective Edwards, did you have occasion to have a further conversation with Mr. Simpson that you haven't told us about thus far, wherein he described for you the events of that night as regards he and his wife? You answer that yes or no.
No.
Did you have any follow-up conversations with Mr. Simpson on a day after January 1st, 1989?
No.
Do you know an officer by the name of Farrell?
Yes.
And was he one of the officers who did some investigation on this case?
He's the one that filed the case as a misdemeanor.
So he did have something to do with this case?
Yes.
Do you know whether or not, of your own independent knowledge, whether or not Officer Farrell had any further conversation with Mr. Simpson?
Just from what Farrell told me.
And were you able to ascertain whether or not he talked to him?
Objection to the question.
Yes, that yes.
Farrell will follow the officer to the witness stand, Your Honor.
Sustained. It's irrelevant.
When you saw Michelle Abduram out at the vehicle, it's your testimony that you recognized her voice as the person who told you there was nothing wrong at the premises there?
Yes.
And what was there about her voice that made you recognize it?
It was probably the accent or something, but I realized it was the same person from the voice.
Were you able to ascertain whether or not there was any, strike that, were you able to ascertain whether or not any of the grounds in and around Rockingham were muddy on that particular evening as you came back to the residence or at any time?
That whole mountain area appeared to be wet.
I presume it had rained over a period of time then, is that correct?
Right.
The Polaroid shots that you took at West Los Angeles Station, was that after your partner had taken Ms. Nicole Brown Simpson into the bathroom area?
No, it was before.
All right, and was any effort made to take any shots or pictures of her body in that your partner saw?
We were out of film.
Well, we went through that before, but there was film in that station, was there not?
I would imagine somewhere in that station there was film.
All right, was there any effort made to get any film so that you could take pictures of her body as your partner saw them that night?
No.
But you never asked anybody for any film, did you, after it ran out?
No, she wanted to go home to her kids.
But you didn't take the camera home either, did you?
Didn't have any film.
But, officer, you didn't ask anybody for film.
I think we've been through this once already.
That does sound familiar, Your Honor, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. All right. I think I did ask that. Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing further of this gentleman at this point.
All right. Mr. Darden?
Detective Edwards, you testified that you saw scratches and bruises on Nicole Brown, is that right?
Yes, I did.
You didn't see any scratches on the defendant when you
I
saw
think that's
him?
leading and suggestive. That's improper direct examination. I didn't go into that.
Yes, he did.
Overruled.
Redirect examination.
Overruled.
Did you see any scratches on the defendant?
No, I did not.
You see any bruises on the defendant?
No, I did not.
See a handprint around his neck?
No.
The only person you saw with scratches and bruises and handprints around
Objective,
his neck was
argumentative,
Nicole
Your Honor.
Brown.
Sustained, it's leading, it's argumentative, it's suggestive. Calm down, gentlemen.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Calm down, gentlemen. The issue was whether or not you saw any injuries on the defendant. That was a yes or no.
Did you only see injuries on the right side of Nicole Brown's body?
No, it was on the left side also.
You described a moment ago a portion of the conversation you had with Nicole Brown at the station, is that correct?
That's true.
Did you have additional conversation with her?
Yes.
What was that additional conversation?
What foundation? What and where?
At West
Additional.
Philly Station?
All right. Overruled.
Had to do with why the argument occurred.
She told you why the argument occurred?
All right, let me
Yes.
see counsel over the sidebar. All right, thank you, counsel. Mr. Darden, you may continue. Certainly.
Conversation you had with Nicole Brown at West Philly Station, Detective?
It was, she told me why the argument had occurred that night.
What did she tell you?
She said that there was two other women living in the house and that O.J. Simpson had sex with one of them prior to going to bed that night with her.
Is that in your report?
No.
Why not?
Because right after I finished the report and turned it in, I started getting phone calls from the news media and newspapers, and I didn't feel that it was a relevant part of the report of the crime, and it would just be a sensationalism thing.
You saw both Nicole Brown and the defendant that night, is that correct?
Yes.
Who was the biggest physically?
O.J. Simpson was about 6'1", 215 pounds, and didn't appear to have an ounce of fat on him.
He seemed to be in good physical condition?
Extremely good.
Why did you go into the house at Robinson?
Why didn't I go? It was because it was an officer safety problem with a injured victim in the rear of my car, and I couldn't leave my partner alone, go into a locked facility like that, and there was no way anybody could get in to help me in case I needed something.
You indicated to Mr. Coughlin that you'd never seen the defendant angry prior to January 1, 1989, is that correct?
That's correct.
And yet you told us today that he appeared angry to you.
That's correct.
Okay. Was there anything about him physically that caused you to conclude that he was angry?
Yes, his facial demeanor, his voice, and he had veins were popping out right here on the upper part of his head, along the side of his head. There were veins were pulsating and popping out, and I had never seen that before on television or anything.
So you associated that with anger.
Yes,
You could have arrested the defendant in his underwear, as you wanted.
Overruled.
yes. Because I knew that if I took O.J. Simpson, a person with that stature, to the station in his underwear, that there would be repercussions because the media would show up and it would get blown out of proportion.
You also told Mr. Cochran that you did not indicate in the report that Nicole Brown was.
That's correct.
Anything about her demeanor that night that caused you to believe that she was intoxicated?
None.
Have you had training in domestic violence?
Yes, I have.
Have you had training in the profile of a
Can I object to this question? This is improper re-examination, improper question.
Sustained.
Did the defendant appear afraid at all of Nicole Brown that night?
No.
Did she appear to be afraid of him?
Yes, ma'am.
Overruled.
She appeared to be terrified.
You described earlier the mud on Nicole Brown, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you see any mud on the defendant?
None.
I have a moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
Reason other than a desire to be with her children, that is for her not going down to Parker Center.
That was it. She just wanted to get back to her children.
Is that what she told you at West LA Station?
Yes.
Why didn't you keep her at the station?
She wanted to get back to her children.
Was she under arrest?
No.
Has she violated any law?
None.
Was there any indication that she beaten up the defendant?
No.
And you did speak to the defendant, right?
Yes.
He didn't tell you that she beat him up, did he?
No, he did not.
You didn't put her pants into evidence?
No, I photographed him.
didn't you book his hand?
I felt the photograph significantly depicted what had happened to her in regards to the pants.
You told Mr. Cochran that the defendant said that the police had been out to the location 8 times before.
Yes.
Were you surprised to hear that from the defendant?
Sustained.
Well, you didn't go back to the station and check the records to see if the LAPD had been to the house 8 times before, did you?
No.
Why not?
So I felt the detective assigned to the case would do that. Once I put that statement in there, I figured it'd be part of his follow-up.
When the defendant told you that the police had been out to the house 8 times before, did he tell you that they'd been there on social calls?
No, matter of fact, I believe it was the same sort of thing.
Hold on. What's overruled? I said overruled. Question is, when the defendant told you that the police had been out to the house 8 times before, did he tell you that they had been there on social calls? Yes or no?
Yes, the police had been out there before. Oh, no, they were there for the same kind of an incident.
Mr. Cochran.
Let me see if I understand that last answer. Mr. Simpson told you that the police had been out 8 times before for the same kind of call? He told you that?
What he said was that
No, I'm asking
been
the
out
question.
here for the same, similar type call. Yeah, you've been out here before for this, and you never did anything before.
Mr. Simpson told you, I'm trying to listen to my question if you like. Mr. Simpson tell you that the police had been out 8 times before on calls involving a situation where he and his wife had been in a fight. He told you that?
Yes,
And did you write that in any report?
yes,
And what did you say? If I showed you the report, can you show me where you said that?
yes.
I'll read it to you and I'll ask if this is what you meant.
Can we show the report to the witness? Better yet, can I have my copy?
This is my examination. I think this one.
That's correct. Doesn't have to show it to him to confront him with it. Mr. Cochran.
Thank you very kindly. Page, or Mr. Douglas is looking for it. Mr. Simpson told you, did he not, that you were the only one to come to his house and make a big deal of this? Did he make that statement to you?
Yes,
And at the time he made that statement to you, he was again inside the fence and you were outside the fence, right?
That's correct.
And you've described for us that he had a robe on, is that correct?
During part of this incident, he had a robe on.
And you described for the jury that at all times he had a robe and some shorts on, sir? Can you say that?
No, he came back out dressed after a period of time.
I'm talking about during this part of the conversation, Detective. You have a robe and some shorts on?
Right.
You never, on any occasion, went over and examined Mr. Simpson's body, did you?
I was standing within a foot of him, and I could see him, and had him illuminated. We were looking through a fence.
Can you try answering my question now? Did you ever go over and examine Mr. Simpson's body?
You mean go into the property and examine it?
You know what examine means?
Yes, I examined him with my flashlight as he was standing in front of me, from standing on the outside of a fence as he was standing on the inside.
And you examined him. And when you examined him, did you examine his back?
No,
Did you examine his, the rear part of his legs?
no.
Part of his body covered by the robe, sir?
None of the part covered by the robe.
None of the body was covered by the robe?
I said I did not examine any of the part that was covered by the robe.
So there was a part, and was he wearing this robe as a robe would be worn, covering his entire body? Was it a long robe?
It was open, loose and open in the front.
Was it a long robe?
Yes, 3/4 length.
And was it tied at the waist?
No, it was open.
And so the parts that you would not be able to see would be part of his chest, part of the front, and all of his back. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct.
You could not see any of that. Is that correct?
I could see part of his chest, the front part of his legs, his upper legs, lower legs, his feet, his hands, his face, and his neck. But I could not see the back or the arms or the sides.
The other parts of his body you could not see and did not examine. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Now, this conversation at West Los Angeles Station, it's your testimony that Ms. Nicole Brown Simpson told you that this argument was over Mr. Simpson having sex with one of the housekeepers?
No, I didn't say that.
Who'd you say he had sex with?
I didn't say he had sex with anybody. I said that she told me that he had sex with, I believe it was she described it as a personal secretary. It was 2 women that were living in the house, and he had sex with one of them prior to this incident.
Did she give you the name of this person?
No, I didn't ask.
Now, did you write that down anywhere?
No, I wasn't going to use it in the report.
Did you write that down anywhere?
No.
And when you tell us that today, that's from your recollection, is that right?
Yes.
And do you remember the name of this person at all?
I didn't ask any names.
And this conversation wherein she told you that he had sex with a personal secretary or something of that nature, did anybody else overhear that conversation other than yourself?
I don't believe so.
Just the two of you, right? Just you
My
and Mr.
partner may have overheard it. I don't know where she was at the time.
I'm asking that you, as far as you know, just you and Miss Nicole Brown Simpson, right?
My partner may have overheard it. I don't know.
It was at West Los Angeles Station?
Yes.
In the lobby there, is that right?
No, I believe it was towards the front door area as we were leaving, or somewhere in that area.
What else did she tell you about this party they had been to?
Nothing.
She tell you they both had been drinking that night?
No, she didn't say anything. I didn't ask if they'd been drinking.
Well, I'm asking you what she told you, sir. Did she tell you that they had gotten home about 3:30 from a party on New Year's Eve?
I can't remember what time she said they got home. I don't know if she did tell me what time they got home.
So you don't recall that, whether or not that happened?
I don't remember her telling me what time they got home from the party.
She mentioned to you that the argument had been over some earrings. Do you recall that?
No, she said it was over somebody that was living in the house.
She never mentioned to you anything about any earrings. Is that right?
Not that I can recall.
And certainly you didn't write that down, did you?
No.
Now, you described, in response to one of counsel's questions, that you saw veins pulsating out of Mr. Simpson's head. Is that right?
Yes.
And did you write that down in your report also, so you'd have a recollection of that?
Nope.
You didn't write that down either, did you?
No.
Do you recall Mr. Simpson saying to you that he and his wife had been involved in an altercation and had a kind of a mutual wrestling match? Do you remember him saying that?
I don't believe he ever said they had a wrestling match. I think he said he pushed her out of the bed, but he didn't beat her. I don't remember him ever using the word wrestling match.
You don't recall the words wrestling match?
Matter of fact, I'm positive he didn't say that.
All right, but you remember he said he pushed her out of the bed,
Right.
and you understood that she got this mud when she was pushed out of the bed?
No.
Now, as I understand it, as an experienced officer at that time, you had almost 20 years of experience. You came upon this scene, and you saw Miss Nicole Brown Simpson, and you didn't, in the course of your investigation, speak to any other witness other than her. Is that correct? Oh, whoa. Is that right?
No, that's incorrect. I talked to Mr. O.J. Simpson.
Well, let's take it one at a time. You didn't talk to Michelle Abduran, right?
Other than to tell her to get away from the car.
I'm talking about with regard to the investigation. You didn't talk to her about this case, right?
That's correct.
You didn't go in and talk to the nanny, right?
That's correct.
You never even went inside the house, did you?
No, I didn't.
You didn't go look to see where this might have taken place, did you?
No.
You talked to Mr. O.J. Simpson, and he told you, according to your statement, that he had pushed her out of his bed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But he hadn't beat her, right?
That's correct.
And then based upon that, you then decided you were going to place him under arrest, right?
No.
Well, you then made a decision while you're outside this gate to place Mr. O.J. Simpson under arrest. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And is there anybody else around there that you talked to?
I talked to Nicole Simpson, and I saw her.
All right, you saw Nicole Simpson. You know, do you not, sir, that if somebody gets into a fight, on occasion there may be bruises on both sides. You understand that, don't you, Mr.
Oh, yes.
Police officer?
Yes.
So you talked to Nicole Simpson, you talked to O.J. Simpson, but you had made your decision, had you not, before you talked to O.J. Simpson, isn't that right?
Yes.
You made your decision after only talking with Nicole Simpson, isn't that right?
That's correct.
And you didn't talk to anybody else in connection with that decision.
Didn't talk to anybody else.
And at that time, how long had you been a police officer?
About 19 and a half years.
And had you worked as a detective at that time?
No.
Become a detective since that time?
Yes.
Were you a patrolman at that time?
Yes.
You've been 19 years on patrol?
Yes.
I have nothing further at this point, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Spoke to Nicole Brown and then you arrested the defendant. Is that correct?
I placed him under arrest. Physically, I couldn't get to him.
Okay. And what was the basis of your decision to arrest him?
Her statement of how she was injured and that I could see trauma on her.
Did the LAPD have a policy regarding spousal battery cases?
Yes.
And that policy related to when to arrest a suspected wife beater, is that correct?
Sustain. Rephrase the question, please. Rephrase the question, please.
You've read the law regarding spousal abuse, is that correct?
Yes.
And were you aware of the law as it stood in 1989?
Yes.
What duty, if any, under the law, did you have to arrest this defendant on January 1, 1989?
Overruled.
Under 273.5 of the Penal Code and 13-700 of the Penal Code, I shall arrest that person. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, wills or mays. I shall arrest the defendant.
You're required under the law, under these circumstances, to arrest.
Under the Penal Code and my department policy, absolutely, I have to arrest that person.
You told Mr. Cochran a moment ago that you did not examine the defendant up close. Is that right?
Just within about a foot with a fence between us.
Had he not run away, would you have had an opportunity to examine him?
Overruled. You can answer the question.
Yes, I would have had a chance to examine him thoroughly had he not fled the scene.
days if you was like 10 or 15, Your Honor. But fine, did he complain to you or show you any injuries?
Can I ask an answer?
Last question.
No, it was a different question. Slightly different question.
Did he complain to you or show you any injuries?
No, he did not.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Cochran.
Well, once you made your decision to arrest Mr. O.J. Simpson, you didn't ask him about any injuries anyway, did you? You just wanted to take him to jail, isn't that right, sir?
Absolutely.
That's the situation. You weren't interested in his welfare at that point, isn't that correct?
I could see he was not injured.
You couldn't see anything. Let's strike that. You had made a decision, and that's what you're going to carry out. Isn't that right, officer?
Under the penal code and department policy, he was going to jail for 273.5.
Right, and as you said, if the other officers had been out there 7 or 8 times, were under that same law that you were under, right, that you were under on January 1st?
Exactly.
That would mean that since he wasn't arrested, nothing happened like that, isn't that correct? That was the law. Isn't that correct?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily? But you don't know, do you?
I don't know, neither do you.
You didn't bother checking, did you?
No.
You thought the sergeant would check that, didn't you?
I thought the sergeant or the detective that was handling the case would check that, yes.
You don't know whether or not they checked that or not, do you?
As far as I know, I don't know.
All right. Detective, thank you very much. You're excused. Please don't discuss your testimony with any other witnesses. Mr. Darden, your next witness, please.
Your Honor, I have in my hand what appears to be the LAPD policy as it related to spousal abuse. It is a policy that was in effect on January 1, 1989. May it be marked People 6 for identification.
All right, People 6.
I have one moment to check.
Please. All right, Mrs. Robertson.
You do solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the cause now pleading before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I so do swear.
Please be seated and state your first and last names for the record.
Mike Farrell, M-I-K-E-F-A-R-R-E-L-L.
Mr. Darden.
Sir, were you a police officer employed by the LAPD on January 3, 1989?
Yes, I was.
And what was your assignment at that time?
I was assigned to West LA Detectives, assigned to the Crimes Against Persons detail.
And did the crimes against person detail include spousal battery cases?
Yes, they did.
Did you respond to 360 North Rockingham on the morning of January 1, 1989?
No, I did not.
You were not a patrol officer at that time?
That is not, I was not a patrol officer, no.
And on January 3, 1989, were you assigned a case involving Nicole Brown and this defendant?
Yes, I was.
And who assigned you that case, if you recall?
My supervisor was Detective Sergeant Glenn Varner.
And what is a normal procedure for a detective in West LA Division after a case is assigned to them?
Well, this case, after it was assigned to me, my supervisor explained to me what I should do with it and adjudicate it as soon as possible by interviewing the victim and the defendant, if possible.
And did you interview the defendant?
Yes, I did.
Did you interview him in person?
No, I did not. I interviewed him over the telephone.
Do you recall who called who?
Yes, I phoned the residence.
And how many times did you phone the residence before you finally spoke to the defendant?
Once. I believe I called on the 3rd in the later morning before the afternoon.
Okay. Had someone already prearranged a time when the two of you would speak?
Not that I recall. I just made my phone call.
Okay. And he picked up the telephone?
Yes, Nicole Simpson picked up the phone.
And did you next speak to the defendant?
After I spoke with Nicole, yes, I did.
Okay. And did you recognize the defendant's voice?
Yes, I did.
Was it a voice you'd heard before?
Yes.
And where had you heard the defendant's voice before?
Numerous times on television.
And did you ask the defendant about the occurrences of January 1, 1989?
Yes, I did.
And what did he say?
He explained to me that after he and Nicole returned home after a New Year's Eve party, that they were ready to, they were in their bedroom and a verbal dispute broke out between them. And that the dispute got out of hand and it became physical. He told me that it turned into a mutual type wrestling match. And that was basically it, nothing more than that.
Did you ask the defendant about the injuries Nicole Brown sustained?
Yeah, I asked him about because I had a photograph that showed injury to her forehead, and I told him that I looked at a photograph that depicted some injury to Nicole's forehead, and he said, well, I know, I was surprised to even see that even occurred because of the incident.
Did he deny causing those injuries?
No, he did not.
Did he admit causing those injuries?
Yes, he did.
You asked the defendant about the 911 call to police.
No, I don't think I asked him anything about the phone call itself, no.
Okay, so basically then all you asked him was what happened?
That's correct.
Now, after receiving this information from the defendant, did you write a report?
Yes, I did.
And did you include in that report the information the defendant gave you?
Yes, I did.
Did you continue to investigate the matter?
Yes, I did. I asked, after I did the initial telephone interview with the defendant and Nicole, I told Nicole that I would like to see her in person if she can make arrangements to come to the police station. She agreed, and she would come down the next day. She would also bring her 2 kids with her, and she did come down and meet me.
And so you did meet Nicole Brown?
Yes, I did.
What day was that?
I believe that was the 4th of January, the next day.
And what injuries, if any, did you notice on her face and neck and head area at that time?
I just noticed some bruising on her forehead. That was all.
The right side.
And did you re-interview her?
Yeah, I explained to her what was going to happen in this case, and I explained to her the procedures that would happen. I reviewed the original police report with her and asked her to review it. We reviewed it together. I asked her, does this accurately depict what happened over the weekend? She said yes. I said, is this your signature on the report? She said, yes, it is. And then I explained that I would be pretty preparing the case for a prosecuting attorney.
Did you refer the case to the LA City Attorney's Office?
Yes, I did.
And do they have a special unit that handles cases like these?
I believe they do. I met with the supervising attorney there and provided her with the information.
And what was the supervising attorney's name?
Mary Claire Molador.
You gave Deputy City Attorney Molador all the reports?
That is correct.
Did you show her the photographs?
Yes, I did.
How do we spell Molador?
I believe it's Molidor.
Do you recall the date in which you turned over your case file to the City Attorney's Office?
I believe it may have been the afternoon of the 4th or the morning of the 5th. I do not recall the exact time.
And after you referred the matter over to the City Attorney's Office, did you again speak with the defendant?
Yes, I did. He phoned me at my desk early in the afternoon. I believe it was after lunch.
Was the case against the defendant filed?
Yes, it was.
What was filed?
One count of spousal battery. I believe it's 273A of the Penal Code. I'm not exactly sure. Sure.
When you spoke to the defendant on the telephone, January 5, that call was January 5, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. When you spoke to him on the telephone on January 5, what did he say?
Well, Mr. Simpson phoned me, and he was inquiring about what this case status with his incident was. I explained to him that I had turned over the entire case file to the city attorney's office, and a decision had not yet been made. And the defendant and I did have a conversation. He discussed with me his feelings about the matter. He wanted to relay to me that he was sorry that the police had to come to his residence, and that me, as a detective, had to get involved in his personal problems. And he was really remorseful about what happened that day, and that he and Nicole were going to seek counseling to resolve their family problems, and that if I could relay that to the city attorney when they make their final decision in filing the case. I told Mr. Simpson I would do that, but I also told Mr. Simpson that it's most likely he is looking at filing for a criminal charge, and that he did one day have to face up to what happened and would have to answer for it.
Do you recall him saying anything else?
No, it was actually a pleasant conversation. I don't recall anything else.
Okay. Did you write a report in this matter?
Yes, I did.
I have a report here, Your Honor. It's dated February 8, 1989.
Report, February 8th,
Yes.
89.
And before I proceed with the report, Detective, did the defendant describe for you or mention to you how Nicole Brown sustained the injuries she sustained?
Again, he explained that it was a result of an argument that they gotten into that resulted in a physical altercation, more of a mutual type wrestling match, nothing else.
Do you recall everything that was said in the conversation?
That's most that I recall. If I have anything else, I could refer to the report.
Would that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
May I, Your Honor?
Okay.
I'd like to show the witness the report dated February 8, 1989. Mr. Cochran has a copy. Like this.
All right, Detective, you can just read that to yourself, please.
Have you read the report, Detective?
Yes.
Does it refresh your recollection?
Yes, it does.
What else did the defendant say?
He told me that he was sorry for what he did to Nicole and that he didn't mean to harm her in any way and that he would seek counseling with her.
Didn't he also tell you that he knew that what he did was wrong?
Yes, he did.
Isn't that what you wrote in your report?
Yes, I did.
And when he told you that he didn't mean to harm his wife, did he elaborate on that at all?
Not that I recall.
He didn't describe the incident as a mutual wrestling match in this January 5 conversation, did he?
No, he did not.
Did he ask you not to file a case?
He asked me to relay his feelings about the whole matter to the city attorney's office.
Did you do that?
Yes, I did.
The report that you just read, dated February 8, 1989, that report wasn't in existence when you referred the matter to the city attorney's office. Is that correct?
No, I maybe have to make something clear on the report. It's dated 2/8/89. That may be a typographical error. The case was filed on January the 30th, 1989. I may have typed the statement that he gave me that same day, and I may have put the wrong date on there. It should be, I believe it's 1/8/89.
Okay. But he did apologize for his conduct.
Yes, he did. He was very cordial about it.
Now, after you referred the matter to the city attorney's office, did they give you any further directions?
Yes. After some time, they asked me to look into the other incidents that were described by Nicole. She apparently told the officers who responded to her home that the police had been out there on numerous other times, and they asked me to look into that situation.
And did you look into that situation?
Yes, I did.
Did you determine that there were other situations or occasions when LAPD officers went to 360 North Rockingham?
Yes, I did. I inquired with some of the more senior officers at West LA that had been working the division for over the last 5 years and asked.
I'd like to object. It's not totally responsible. It's required to make him be here, so I'm not sure of response.
Sustained.
Okay. Well, what action? I'm sorry.
Question just a little overbroad.
What action, if any, did you take to determine whether or not other police units or officers had gone to Rockingham?
I spoke with senior officers at West LA and asked them if they had ever been to the location on Rockingham in the past.
All right, Mr. Darden, I take it you're about to launch into another line of inquiry at this point?
Do anything else?
Excuse me, Mr. Darden?
Yes.
I take it you're about to launch into another line of inquiry at this point?
Yes.
All right, we're going to take our afternoon recess, and at this point, if you recall our schedule for times, we actually get started at 1:30. We're going to take our break at 2:45 because it takes the sheriff half an hour to cycle the jurors. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our afternoon recess for this afternoon. We'll resume at 15 minutes after 3. Please remember my admonition to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves, form any opinions, have any contact with anybody, or conduct any deliberations, and we'll see you back here at 3:15. All right, we're in recess. All right, Mr. Douglas said he wanted to address something. Well, makes the argument shorter.
A lot easier. Why don't we just start now? And you can rule right away, Your Honor. It'll be less vitriolic.
Oh, I don't know about that. These elevators are a travesty in this building. He asked.
We need a special object for film and clocks.
Miss Abramson, what a delight. What a delight.
Our guest cross-examiner.
Could you please take your time out of the sheet?
I mean it sincerely. I almost miss you.
Almost, yes, I've been watching. I've been matching you, but are reminded of you.
Yes. All right, we've been rejoined by our prosecutors. All right, Mr. Douglas, you had something you wanted to bring to the court's attention before we invite the jury to join us?
I did, Your Honor. There was a letter that was transmitted to the court and a copy given to counsel concerning our supreme interest in quickly examining items of physical evidence. As the court is aware, the people have apparently now concluded their testing on items of evidence. There have been discussions from Mr. Blazier, Mr. Scheck, along with Mr. Clark and Mr. Harmon, and there has been an agreement that the items may be shipped to the forensics laboratory in Albany, New York, of Dr. Barbara Wolf, one of our doctors. We have not, in earlier occasions, had a chance to physically touch any of the items of evidence, any of the serological evidence, mind you. We had not had a chance to take our own pictures. We were hoping that this can be done soon, and we were seeking to introduce the protocol consistent with that which was used with Cellmark, so that they would be allowed to have a representative present for a chain of custody matters. They would be allowed to observe the cutting or the splitting of any samples. However, they would not be allowed to watch the actual testing so that we can maintain the integrity of our testing methodologies. I wanted to try to get some sort of closure on this issue so that we may quickly be able to get the items taken back, tested, and then returned before they'd be used in this actual trial. Given that we are currently on the domestic discord aspect of the trial, where the physical evidence is less probative or even necessary, I was hopeful that I could fashion some resolution today so that we could have those items sent out in the coming days.
Ms. Clark? I did receive a photocopy of the fax letter, and I don't recall, however, that was early in the morning as we were trying to deal with other matters. Ms. Clark?
Yes, Your Honor. I spoke to Mr. Douglas this afternoon, and he informed me at 2:45 that he wanted to address this matter at 3:15. I called upstairs to find out if I could get Rock and Woody here because they did have very specific requests about the procedures that they wanted to have employed. Unfortunately, they are at SID. They will not be able to make it until tomorrow. However, I asked that they be available first thing in the morning tomorrow to address it.
All right, that sounds reasonable. So, Mr. Douglas, I have not had the opportunity to read that letter because of the other matters we had this morning.
Very well, Your Honor.
All right, but
so we'll take it up in the morning?
First thing.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Anything else before we ask the jury to join us?
Well, probably is, I think that you're just out of abundance of caution, we should advise the court that after we finish this witness, I think before the next witness, Mr. Darden has indicated it'll be necessary to have perhaps a 402 hearing. May have mentioned that to the court, so I wanted to let the court know.
All right, who's the next witness?
Ron Ship, Your Honor.
Well, that's right. Okay.
So that may require a chamber conference before we
All right,
go on.
we'll start off immediately.
All right, I'm aware of the issue. All right, thank you. All right, Deputy Magno, let's have the jury, please. All the parties are again present before the court. Detective Farrell is on the witness stand. Detective Farrell, you're reminded you're still under oath. And Mr. Darden, do you wish to complete your direct examination?
I have no further questions at this time.
All right. Mr. Cochran.
Very kind of you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Farrell.
Good afternoon, counsel.
You are presently assigned to the West Los Angeles Detective Division, is that correct?
That is not correct. I'm currently assigned to West Traffic Division.
All right. You formerly worked West Los Angeles Detectives.
Correct.
All right. And how long have you been in the West Los Angeles Division altogether?
Approximately 7 years.
And you're a sergeant, is that correct?
I am a detective.
Okay. And before that, you worked as a sergeant?
I was a patrolman, training officer.
All right. And now you're working as a detective?
That is correct. I'm a detective supervisor.
All right. Now, in connection with this particular case, the matter was initially handled by an Officer Edwards, is that correct?
Correct.
And you had occasion to review his reports of January 1st, 1989, then you started handling the case as the detective, is that correct?
Yes.
And in that connection, you wrote some reports also, is that correct?
Yes.
And you've shared with us that in the course of your investigation, you prepared a report. In that report, Mr. Simpson talked to you over the phone, is that correct?
Yes.
And what was the date of that? Was that January 3rd or thereabouts?
Yes.
All right, so the first time you talked to Mr. O.J. Simpson was January 3rd, and that was in this phone conversation when you called his house, is that right?
Correct.
His wife answered the phone,
That's correct.
and thereafter then you talked with him.
Correct.
Now, in that conversation, Mr. Simpson advised you that both he and his wife had been drinking after coming home from a party, is that correct?
Yes, that's what I recall.
And they had been, as far as you knew, to a New Year's Eve party, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you recall what time he indicated they came home from this party, sir?
No, I do not.
All right. And he told you that after that, after they come home from this party and had been drinking, a verbal dispute broke out.
Yes.
He told you that. And that he admitted that in this verbal dispute, there was a physical altercation that resulted in kind of a mutual wrestling type of altercation, is the words he used, right?
That's how he described it.
All right. And that he told you thereafter was that when he saw his wife, he was surprised to see a bump or a bruise on her forehead. Is that correct?
Correct.
And by the time that you had this conversation with Mr. Simpson, you, of course, had some Polaroid shots. Is that correct?
Yes.
Been taken? Do you recall how many pictures there were?
3.
And they were of Mr. Nicole Brown Simpson?
Yes.
And with regard to the Polaroid camera, do you know, was there such a camera at West Los Angeles Station during the early days of January of 1989?
I would assume so. I have never used one.
All right, you would assume there was, and I presume that would be something that would be owned by the city of Los Angeles. Is that correct? Camera.
That or the officers themselves own them.
All right. And as such, the film, if the city of Los Angeles owned such a Polaroid camera, the film would generally be also owned by the city of Los Angeles, right?
Can you ask him if he knows?
If you know.
I would assume so.
Right. If the city of Los Angeles does have the wherewithal to buy film, don't they?
I hope so, yes.
Yes, and they did back in January of 1989, did they not?
I believe so, yes.
All right. This is in Orange County. So we still have, we still.
Not yet.
Not yet. So, not yet. We still have funds, right?
We may have a significant impact on this, Mr. Cochran.
Your Honor, then I better hurry up, so I don't want to cause any
I
further
think we
delay.
talked enough about Polaroids.
At any rate, you're aware that there were facilities for taking pictures of individuals' injuries back in January of 1989 at West Los Angeles Station.
Not facilities that are designed to take photographs of injuries. We prefer to have the victim be transported to SID Photo Lab for proper photographic type things because they have better equipment, obviously.
I understand that, but I mean where you had a situation where someone was not transported to SID for photographs, you became aware that there was an ability at West Los Angeles Station to take photographs.
I assume that since I had 3 photographs given to me.
And you saw them. All right. Very well. Now, in your conversation of January the 3rd that we've been talking about, you spoke also with Nicole Brown Simpson. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And I presume, sir, that you had never met with or talked with either of these individuals, that is either Nicole Brown Simpson or O.J. Simpson, up to that point. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And in her conversation with you, did she tell you what the...
Objection, Your Honor, to form the question.
May I finish the question, Your Honor? I'd like to finish the question.
I was asking if she said something.
I was going to phrase the question in a way that you might not find objectionable.
Well, I'll hear the question.
All right, that's what I want to try to do. in your conversation with Nicole Brown Simpson, was the subject matter broached of what the subject matter broached of what caused this argument between she and her husband in the early morning hours of January the 1st of 1989? And I said yes or no.
She did not give me details about what actually caused the argument.
All right, now let me get back to my question. Was the subject matter of that argument, the cause of that argument, discussed? Yes or no?
Not that I recall, not the subject matter of what caused the verbal dispute.
All right. Did you at any time have a conversation with Detective Edwards wherein he indicated to you whether or not he'd been told what the subject matter of that argument was?
Not that I recall.
And you never saw in any reports, did you? Any of Detective Edwards' reports, the subject matter of the argument?
I read his follow-up report, which I requested. The subject matter of the actual fight, no, I don't recall seeing anything like that.
All right. So as you sit here now, even today, you don't really know what caused this altercation or confrontation. Is that correct, sir?
No, I do not.
All right, sir. Now, you then had occasion, I guess, after the January 3rd conversation, which was the first one, to have a second conversation with Mr. O.J. Simpson.
Yes, I did.
And the second conversation was on or about January 5th, 1989. Is that correct?
Yes,
In that conversation, Mr. O.J. Simpson contacted you. Is that correct?
that's correct. He called me out my desk.
And, of course, you recognize his voice again. Is that right?
Yep. Yes, I did.
And at that time, had you completed your investigation into this particular matter?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I cleared the crime. I identified the individual who was responsible, and I believe I had enough to present to the city attorney's office to seek a prosecution.
All right, but as of the date January 5th, 1989, there had been no determination made at that point whether or not the city attorney was going to file. Is that right?
Yes.
All right, and you so indicate that in your report?
Yes.
Okay. You completed your particular investigation, right?
Yes.
All right. And in this conversation that you had on January 5th, is this the conversation where Mr. Simpson voluntarily stated to you certain concerns and feelings that he had regarding this case?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Simpson told you, did he not, that he regretted the entire incident? Is that correct?
Yes.
That he was sorry that you, as a police officer, had to get involved in his personal problems?
Yes.
And he went on to claim responsibility and say that he knew what his conduct was wrong. Did he say that?
Yes, he did.
And they didn't mean to harm his wife, Nicole. He told you that, did he not?
Yes.
He went on to tell you that he planned to schedule both himself and Nicole Brown Simpson for counseling, did he not?
Yes.
And that he'd ask you to communicate that information to the city attorney's office when you took the case to them for filing or whatever. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
And in that conversation of January 5th, you told him at some point that you felt that at some point he had to stand up and admit responsibility for any actions that he'd taken on January 1st. Is that correct?
Yes.
And as the investigating officer, you are aware, are you not, that at some point thereafter, after January 5th, Mr. Simpson did, in fact, come into a court, enter a no contest plea, and resolve that matter. Isn't that correct?
Overruled, he's the investigating officer. Do you know?
I never saw Mr. Simpson in court, ever.
All right. Well, you didn't see him in court, but you became aware, did you not, that the matter was resolved by way of a nolo contendere plea by Mr. O.J. Simpson. Is that correct?
Yes.
And as the investigating officer, you knew that matter was resolved without a trial. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, let's back up for a moment. Prior to Mr. Simpson entering the no contest plea, did Mrs. Nicole Simpson seek to drop all charges against him?
When I first met her on the 4th,
What's the objection? Sure. Objections overruled.
You got the question in mind? I can try to phrase it again. Certainly, sir. Prior to Mr. Simpson entering a plea to this misdemeanor charge of 273.5 PC, did Ms. Nicole Brown Simpson indicate a desire to drop all charges against her husband and have a city attorney hearing?
Well, when I first met her on the 4th, she brought the kids with her, and I discussed what happens with these type of cases. And I wanted her input about her feelings towards prosecution. At that time, she said if she could avoid it, she doesn't want to prosecute. But I told her that no matter what she told me, even though she didn't want to prosecute, I'd have to take the case to the city attorney's office. Then I discussed some of the options that the city attorney may do, and one of those is the city attorney hearing. And then at that time, she said, well, I would like to have that. I think that would be neat.
All right, let me just back up. In your report, you spell it out. On January 4th, '89, you contacted Ms. Nicole Brown Simpson. At that time, she told you she did not want to prosecute, but would welcome a city attorney hearing. That's an informal hearing at the city attorney's office, right?
Correct.
You sit around with the city attorney and you discuss this matter, right?
Yes.
And so thereafter, you told her that the city attorney could make their own judgment. They may want to go forward with the charges whether or not she wanted to prosecute or not. Is that what you said?
That is correct.
All right. And ultimately, we know that Mr. Simpson did enter this no contest plea to the misdemeanor charges, right?
Yes.
You were not in court that day, however.
Yes, I was.
All right. So you did see him enter the plea.
No, I never saw Mr. Simpson. I believe I went with with the city attorney, who was Rob Pringle at the time. I appeared at the court that day, and I believe I stayed outside. They kept me outside in the hall.
Okay.
So they just told me what happened.
So you were in the hallway?
Yeah.
Okay. I understand. Now, just before the break, Mr. Darden was starting to ask you some questions about your investigation about other incidents involving Rockingham. And then we took a break. Is that correct?
Yes.
When you took the break, did you go up and talk to Mr. Darden about that?
No, we just went up to the office. I had a drink of water.
All right. He never asked you what the answer to the questions were going to be?
No, he did not.
He didn't say he was going to come back and not ask you those questions?
No, he did not.
What if I ask you those questions?
I'll answer them.
Do I want to hear the answers? I'll strike that. Now, at any rate, you, in the course of your investigation as one of the detectives, you told us just prior to the break that you had occasion to talk with some officers at that particular station. Is that correct?
That's correct. The city attorney asked me to look into possible other incidences up at the residence.
All right, so you talked to some officers. How many, just tell me a number, how many officers did you talk to altogether?
I can't recall, maybe 10.
And did you take any reports from any of those officers?
I requested, if they had any information, to write out a report and give it to me.
And you got a report from one officer, did you not?
That's correct.
And that officer's name is Mark Furman?
That is correct.
And was that the only written report that you received?
Yes.
And Mark Furman wrote you a report about an incident to which he'd allegedly responded at the Rockingham residence back in 1985. Is that correct?
He wrote a letter to the city attorney, yes.
And the letter he wrote in 1989 was referred back to an alleged incident in 1985. Is that correct?
Correct.
And would I be correct in assuming that that was the only letter that was sent to the city attorney in connection with the case of the January 1st, 1989?
That's correct. That's what I recall, yes.
And with regard to your search, did you search any records to see whether or not there were any radio calls to that location?
What the city attorney did,
I'm talking about you now, not the city
myself.
attorney. You, yes.
No, I did. All I did was contact the communications division of Los Angeles Police Department.
All right. So you did not check any records in West Los Angeles regarding possible calls that had taken place prior to January 1st, 1989?
I did my normal search of the computer.
All right. And you didn't find any calls, right?
None of them documented.
All right. And then by none of them documented, that means they weren't in the computer, right?
Police report.
All right. There were no police reports in the computer, right?
I couldn't find them.
All right. And you looked for them, and you were doing a diligent job, weren't you?
I tried.
You were a responsible officer at that time, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and you're responsible today, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Okay. You know how to use the computer?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You didn't find any police reports. And the only officer who stepped forward to write a report was this Mark Furman, right?
Yes.
And did you know Mark Furman prior to this particular time? I'll link it up.
He's been working West LA, and we all know each other at West LA.
So your answer is yes, you knew him?
Yes, I did know him.
All right. How did you happen to come to talk with him?
Well, he was one of the senior officers there. He was one of the officers that had most time there, and the city attorney asked me to look into the past 5 years, and he had been there at least 5 years.
All right. So when you told us about the talking to 10 senior officers, he would have been one of the 10 senior officers, is that right?
Yes.
All right. And then he then wrote this report. And was that report, the letter that he wrote around the middle of January of 1989, was that sent to you or to the city attorney?
I believe he gave me the original copy of it, and I in turn gave it to the city attorney's office.
And you're still in West Los Angeles now, are you not?
No, I am not.
And where are you now?
I'm at West Traffic Division.
All right. When did you leave the West Los Angeles division?
December of 1990.
You described, when you were talking to Mr. Darden, that your conversation with Mr. Simpson was a pleasant one, isn't that correct?
Phone conversation, yes.
Was it fairly common knowledge among West Los Angeles officers that on occasion some of them would, in fact, stop by Mr. O.J. Simpson's residence on a social basis?
I have no knowledge of that.
You had not done that yourself?
No, I have not.
But you don't know about any of the others, do you?
No.
But when you checked the computers for any other police reports or any other trips that officers had made out to the Rockingham resident after January 1st, 1989, you could not find any others after your diligent search. Is that right?
All I was looking for was
Before
documented
January
reports.
1st. And you could not find any
That is
documented
correct.
reports, right?
Not responses by police officers via the radio call, only documented reports, either by Mr. Simpson himself or Nicole.
Right.
I did not find any.
Okay, that was the question. All right, thank you very kindly, sir.
Mr. Darden?
You indicated that the defendant pled no contest to solve the battery charge.
That's correct.
He didn't plead guilty.
No contest.
And in fact, he struck a plea bargain in that case, didn't he?
Yes, with the court report, please. All right, thank you, counsel. Mr. Darden, you may continue.
You also indicated that you had a pleasant telephone conversation with the defendant, detective,
Yes, I did.
but you weren't about to arrest him at that time, were you?
No?
Did you ask him why he fled the location on January 189?
Yes, I did. His response was that he was upset that the police were out there and weren't happy that the police were out there. And then that's when he decided to leave.
You indicated to Mr. Cochran, and you told Mr. Cochran that you were only searching for documented reports. Is that
Correct.
correct? Okay, you were searching for documented reports in your search for other situations where the police went to Rockingham?
Yes.
There are other types of reports that officers fill out, is that correct?
Yes, there are.
They have logs, is that right?
Daily field activities reports. That's correct.
Okay. And what types of information would a patrol officer include on a daily field activity report?
No, I think he testified that he's been a patrol officer, was a training officer. I think he has sufficient foundation to answer what this is. Sufficient experience.
The report itself documents the time the radio car gets the call, its location, type of call, and when the call is finished and what the officer actually did at the location. And it's all documented in the officer's own writing.
And that daily field activity report is a report completely different from the report filled out by Detective Edwards, is that right?
That is correct.
What's the difference between the daily field activity report and the report filled out by Detective Edwards?
The follow-up report filled by Detective Edwards is a continuation of the crime report. The DFARs that we call it is just a daily log of activities that the officers does in the field. It's not part of a crime report or anything like that.
Are DFARs or daily field activity reports computerized?
Not that I know.
Were they computerized back in 1989?
I don't think so. They were not.
How many officers were there assigned to West LA Division back on January 189?
Quite a few. And an exact number I don't know. Over 100?
And is that 100 per shift or 100?
I wish it was 100 per shift, but it's maybe about 30 officers per shift.
30 patrol officers per shift.
Correct.
And each day, each patrol officer fills out a log?
If they are assigned by themselves, yes, but most officers in the Los Angeles Police Department are assigned to 8 cars. That's 2 manned to each patrol car. 2 officers, I'm sorry.
So had you gone back and searched all the DFARs for the 5 years prior to 1989, that would have been quite a job, right?
That's correct.
Just a question, check the form of that question.
Well, it's an innocuous point.
That would have been quite a job, right?
Yes, it would have.
And you would have had to have done a hand search.
Correct.
You also indicated that Nicole Brown asked that you not prosecute the case.
Yes.
You've had training in domestic violence, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
That's not uncommon for domestic violence victims to...
Sustained. Yes. At the sidebar with the court clerk, please. All right. Thank you, counsel. Mr. Darden, you may continue.
I'm sorry, was the objection sustained, Your Honor?
The objection is sustained pending a foundation.
Detective Farrell, what training, if any, have you had in domestic violence?
Basic academy training when I first came on the police department. Also in-service training with the Los Angeles Police Department on domestic violence.
And did you take a course?
Yes, I did.
And how many hours?
It was a 3-day in-service training for advanced field officers, which I believe totaled a 24-hour course.
And have you responded to domestic violence calls in the past?
Yes, I have.
Many?
Quite a few, yes, sir.
How many would you say?
Say over, I could only say hundreds.
And have you been the investigating officer on domestic violence cases in the past?
Yes, I have.
And have you participated in the prosecution of domestic violence cases in the past?
Yes, I have.
Have you read literature having to do with domestic violence?
Yes, I have.
Have you read literature having to do with the causes and effects of domestic violence?
Yes, I have.
Have you spoken to victims of domestic violence?
Yes, I have.
And have you watched them testify?
Yes.
Have you spoken to others who are professionals and who are experts in the area of domestic violence?
Yes, I have.
And have you ever testified in court as an expert on domestic violence?
I have never testified as an expert.
Thank you, Your Honor. Nothing further.
Any recross?
Yes, Your Honor, just a couple questions.
Secretary Farrell, when you were asked by the city attorney to try and determine whether or not there had been other calls in the 5 years or so that preceded January 1st, 1989, did they give you kind of a blanket instruction to do the best that you could?
Yes.
And you, in the course of trying to carry out their request, you did the best that you could, did you not?
Yes.
And then you then reported back to them after you had done the best that you could. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And in doing the best that you could, you got this one letter from Mark Furman. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you very kindly. I have nothing further.
Mr. Darden?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. All right, Detective, thank you very much. I'm going to excuse you from further testimony. Please don't discuss your testimony with anybody else except for the attorneys in the case.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Mr. Darden is the people's next witness.
Now, before we call the next witness, I have in my hand here what appears to be a Xerox copy of a single-page letter. It was dated January 18, 1989. It was directed to the city attorney for the city of Los Angeles, and it was signed by Detective Mark Furman. May it be marked People 7 for identification.
People 7. All right. Mr. Darden, how do you wish to proceed at this point?
I think we should resolve the preliminary legal issue that we have to resolve.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a legal issue that I need to resolve before the next witness can be presented. And given the lateness of the hour this afternoon, I'm going to recess as far as you are concerned this afternoon. Please remember my admonition to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves, form any opinions about the case. Don't allow anybody to talk to you about the case. And you are not to perform any deliberations till the matter has been submitted to you. Have a pleasant evening. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, and we'll have more witnesses for you. All right, see you tomorrow.